Hello, everybody. This is a new week of the Fast Travel Lounge. We're on episode 47 now. Everyone's kind of gone and done their own thing for a little bit. So this week, just to make sure we have an episode coming out and not missing another dead week, I've brought in a couple of my friends to help cover the seats. So would everyone like to introduce themselves real quick?
Sure. I'm Dong Dong Never Die, but you guys can just call me Dee for short.
I've been by many names, but you know me usually as Kaizer, so I'll stick with that.
And I am Shinki.
All right, cool. Yeah, so this is going to be an interesting week because I think this is the first time any of you guys have done an podcast format thing before. Is that right?
Sure is.
Yeah.
Yep, never been on a podcast before.
Perfect. This is just what I like. So yeah, usually what we do at this point is we just kind of go into rounds the lounge. So I'll start off so everyone can kind of get an idea of what this format is. So this week I've been playing a lot of Bayonetta 3 since it came out 2 days ago. I'm about 3/4 of the way through that now, I think. So I'm just going to be talking about that for quite a while this week. What about you, Shinki? What have you been up to lately?
Recently, I just played a game called City Shrouded in Darkness. So, I literally started it earlier today and finished it. Took me about 6 hours. So.
Oh, nice. Nice, short and sweet game.
Yeah.
Dee, how about you?
What I've been doing recently, I recently bought Killing Floor 2, and it's basically just COD Zombies, except as a full game and not just tacked on to Call of Duty. So I've been enjoying that and trying to finish Xenogears, which is probably the most batshit crazy PS1 game I've ever played.
Yeah, the Xeno games have a long storied history from what I've gathered. I've only played the Chronicles games. Even then, I think I've only played Chronicles 1.
Yeah, Chronicles 1 is nothing compared to Xenogears. Xenogears is stupid, but it's in all the right ways.
And Kaizer, how about you?
So I realized that the God of War Ragnarok's coming out in like 2 weeks. So I kind of stopped ignoring the main quest in Horizon Forbidden West and actually got around to finishing it earlier today.
Oh, nice. Just get it out of the way to free up some space for God of War.
Yeah, well, I made the assumption that nothing in the game was going to be missable if I just charged through the main story, and as far as I can tell, that was the right call. So now I can just clean things up and not worry about dropping the game when God of War releases.
Nice. Yeah, that's always a good plan. So at this point, we're going to go into what we've dubbed Josh's album of the week. Even if he's not here, I'm going to be calling it that. This week, Shinki's sister Trinity is the one that submitted this album for us. We'll be going over Rise of the Phoenix by Tenacious D. Has anyone else listened to this before?
This is actually my first Tenacious D album I've listened to. I've never listened to their albums before in their entirety.
Really? Not even...
Just listen to just singles like Tribute or Kickapoo or something?
Yeah, I think I've listened to Kickapoo when the movie came out and then never again. So,
surely you would have heard Tribute.
Yeah, even then, that's still another single. Wait, you haven't heard Tribute?
Nope, I wasn't. I might have seen like a clip of the first Tenacious D movie, and then that's it. I've never seen anything else.
Oh wow, you're missing out.
Yeah, Dave Grohl plays the devil in that from Foo Fighters.
Yeah,
great.
And you were saying earlier as well, Kaizer, that Tribute was actually the greatest song in the world for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a chart topper, like, all over the place.
Yeah, I think it was too.
Yeah, and that the video played all the time over here on MTV as well when it was new.
I fondly remember seeing that for the first time.
I think it was one of the first music videos I actually kind of paid attention to.
I think that was when I learned that music videos could actually tell a story instead of just being a band with like clips of stuff happening.
Yeah, and even then, a lot of them are like still telling stories, but they're like, I don't know, cut together in weird short clips throughout the entire thing before they, like, in between intersections of showing the band just performing. While
they're telling a thematic story and not like a direct story.
Yeah, while this was an actual direct story tied to the song. Yeah, to the actual album of the week, Rise of the Phoenix. This came out in May 11, 2012, so 10 years old now. Real quick, does anyone that did listen have a favorite song on this album?
I did. I think I'd have to go with Low Hanging Fruit.
It's so good.
I was also thinking Low Hanging Fruits. Death Star is also very good.
Yeah, Death Star's great.
Death Star's cool, but I kind of like the Low Hanging Fruit because, when an artist kind of just... It reminds me a lot of jazz when an artist will just babble, They're not singing real lyrics. They're just like, okay, what noises can I vocalize that'll just sound good with whatever I'm playing.
Jack Black knows how to do that.
Yeah, that is a big moniker of Jack Black and Tenacious D songs.
Yeah,
just make some sounds.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite track on the album.
And Shinki, did you have one?
It's probably my favorite one too. Low Hanging Fruit. Oh no, Rise of the Phoenix is pretty good too.
Rise of the Phoenix is pretty good, and the music video along with that is also fantastic. Where
it's a really good music video.
Yeah, it's like interspicing like a lot of like what you'd expect behind the scenes things to be, but they're like trying to make it all work into a music video. Like they're moving from shot to shot.
Yeah, there's green screens and stuff all over the place. You can just tell it's supposed to be real low budget, which is funny.
Yeah. And Kaizer, did you have one for this album?
I have to say, The Ballad of Hollywood Jack and the Rage Cage. I think just going back to songs telling just a straight up story from start to end, I'm just a fan of.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. I thought it was really funny in that as well, that they, like, from Cage's perspective, it makes Jack Black sound like an asshole, but then as it's getting back to Jack Black's perspective, he's like a saint trying to get Cage, like, fixed up back into a RoboCop sort of thing, but, like, he's just there for his friend. Like, the moment he got a phone call, he's just rushing to his aid.
It did kind of make me think, I wonder what Cage's, like, headspace was actually at when Jack Black started kind of making it big and becoming an actor, and like he had that period of time where he just showed up in a few different movies.
Yeah, and they kind of like came together in the beginning, and Jack Black just kind of took off. So you could imagine Gas getting like really jealous over that.
Yeah,
or just exceptionally proud of his friend.
Possibly just feeling a little left in the dust.
Yeah, and that song does really well highlighting that.
Damn, it sounds like I should have been watching the music videos when listening to the album. I just listened to it straight up.
Yeah, no,
the music videos are really good.
I haven't seen the music video for this one either. It's just what you get from the lyrics and the song itself kind of gives that painting. I also like that.
Like,
you go on, Didi.
It kind of feels like The Wall, right? You can enjoy The Wall, but watching the music video for something like Blue Sky kind of, enhances it to a whole other level. You know what I'm saying?
It's a different feeling.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Definitely. I also kind of like that in this album they intersperse a couple of skits into it. Like there's 2 skits for Classical Teacher and Flutes and Trombones. Flutes and Trombones just being a 1.5-minute long fart joke.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys listen to Starbomb, but that definitely their third album they did definitely is like the closest album I've listened to that sounds like this, because a lot of the songs are just like jokey kind of, make some video game joke songs, but they did have like just a random skit just placed in there and to kind of, continue on with the theme, but they didn't write a song for it, and it just kind of reminded me of that, as well as what's the name of the song? Giorgio in the Daft Punk's Random Access Memories album, where they just had Giorgio just kind of do a little summary of how he became a musician for like 2 minutes and then drop into the song.
I kind of like it when artists do stuff like that. It makes the work feel a little bit more personal.
Yeah, Random Access Memories is probably #1 album for me, just straight up. So Tenacious D doing something similar like that, I definitely appreciated that.
Okay, I'll do one quick fun fact about this album, and then we'll move on to everyone's weeks. So, The fun fact I wanted to get into for this is kind of that they were planning this album for quite a while. It was November 2006. They kind of like got the first song written, and they had a plan to release it in 2010. But by the time 2010 came around, they only had one and a half songs written for the album. So they got it pushed back a couple of years to actually finish it off, and they had the plan to do somewhere between 10 to 15 songs for the album. It seems like they hit at about 11 for this, 13 if you include the skits. And real quick, when they described the song Death Star, they wanted not Death Star, Rise of the Phoenix. When they described Rise of the Phoenix, they wanted to have like a workout song similar feeling to Eye of the Tiger. But to me, that kind of hit more with To Be the Best. Like, To Be the Best kind of hit that 80s hype track feel more than Rise of the Phoenix.
It's like a montage.
Yeah, a montage song. So they still got that feeling, just in a completely different song.
All right.
I agree.
Yeah, so that's album of the week done. Let's move on to Dee. Dee, do you want to talk about Killing Floor for a little bit?
All right. So basically, at my new job, I have new coworkers, and sometimes we just spend around the day doing nothing, shooting shit. And he's always trying to get people to play Killing Floor 2. Same way I'm always trying to get someone to play Ultra Kill. Go play Ultra Kill. And so since it was $7 for the Halloween sale, bought it, gave it a shot, and it just feels like I'm playing COD Zombies, except that's the whole game. I don't have to deal with like the COD identity stapled onto it. It's one of those games like, oh, low price, but you have your dailies and weeklies and yada yada, all that nonsense. But I think you start out with like 10 classes, and they all have different unique abilities that you can respec whenever you want. So you don't have to worry about, gaining currency to change out different loadouts. You can just on the fly swap whatever skills you want, unlike Phantasy Star. And the class I picked was Gunslinger. And so what you do for that class is you have two revolvers, and they have piercing damage. And your whole gimmick is just, having your bullets shoot through people. Headshots rank up how much damage you do. At the downside of your reloads taking like literally 5-6 seconds.
So, is it like a campaign-based game or like a wave-based game?
It's not campaign-based. It's wave-based, objective-based, and whatever weekly event Killing Floor 2 has going on at the time. And it's really quick. Like, when you boot up the game, the start menu starts off on the Join Quick Match button. So you just click Match, you pick whichever character you want to play as, which is just cosmetic, pick your class, and then you're in a match with other people. And the best thing, you can even play solo. You can just play by yourself if you really want to.
I was going to ask.
Yeah,
not too bad then. Sounds like an indie game where all you get, like, literally you just log into the game and then press start and you're going.
Yeah, I've only played it for like 2-3 days because there is an in-game shop. You fight, you gain money, and you can like gain rewards for cosmetics, recycle them to make your own. So I don't know how the systems that I'm experiencing now are going to look 50, 60 hours down the line. But where I am right now, it's a pretty good, just, I'm going to hop on, play for like 2 hours, and then I'm just going to go to bed or something. It's definitely one of those types of games for me right now.
A good time waster.
Yeah.
When you're really bored.
Yeah, it's just COD Zombies. There's nothing too complex about it.
Right. Have you had a chance to play with any of the other classes?
Each class has 15 levels, so I've just been leveling up Gunslinger. Because, like, okay, there's some other classes that might seem interesting, like the SWAT class. You have machine guns as your main weapon. Berserker, where you mainly parry the zombies and melee them to death. But for me, it's just like Call of Juarez, right? Sure, you have 3 different playstyles, but naturally, I'm going to be dual wielding the revolvers and just fanning the hammers everywhere.
Yeah, have you played Killing Floor 1 before? Or is Killing Floor 2 the first time you're jumping into this?
I've never even heard of Killing Floor before. I just, hey, play Killing Floor 2. Okay.
Okay,
$7, why not?
Yeah, because I put a couple of hours into Killing Floor 1, and I've seen people play it a lot, but I didn't realize there was a second one that was out. And yeah, this seems pretty interesting. A lot of I was going to ask, like, if you had played it, if you knew any of the key differences between the two games. I know the first one was a 4-player co-op game, and it seems like this one got bumped up to 6-player.
I could not tell you. I've just been playing with like the 3 people, so 4, of my coworkers. So it's like, okay, it could be 6, but as far as I know, it's 4.
So you said you've been playing for a couple of days, and you're playing as like one character in particular, or one.
Oh, I'm playing one class, yeah.
Yeah,
because you can swap out whatever character you want, but still keep the same class.
Right. So you said level 15 was like the max level. So how long does it take to level up if you haven't maxed out already by playing for a couple days?
I am not level 15. I think it's 30. 15 is when you get your first majorly cool ability. I'm level like 12, and I think my playtime is like 3-4 hours.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Then.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
I was thinking you've been playing for like 2 days and you're like still level like 5 or 6. I'm gonna be like,
no. When I mean like 2 days, I mean like 2 days, like in total, not 2 days playtime.
Right.
Yeah. And the only other game I've been playing right now is Library of Ruina. It's a South Korean card-based card battle game where essentially you're some guy in some dystopian city. You're in this library now. You can't die. You have a couple other immortal librarians. And the whole goal is that whoever tries to come in the library to get the book with all the knowledge they'll need to succeed in life, whatever, grant their wishes, your job is to kill them and turn them into books. So the whole game is just a bunch of randomly sectioned, like a bunch of separate sequences of characters in the real world who are going through some horrible mess, sees the invitation for the library, think this is your last chance to gain, an upper hand, and your job as a player is to just kill them, turn them into books, put them in the library. So it's very kind of like a if you watch any kind of South Korean film, it's depressing. So but it's good, and the combat is very hard once you get past a certain point. The community has effectively called the difficulty spike a wall, and that is 100% true. That game is absurdly hard once you get past a certain point.
Oh no, I hate when that happens. Like you're just kind of casually enjoying something, and it's like, no, here, this is the part where you have to actually test your skills.
It's not like, oh, you're casually enjoying something. Because the game has, here's all the mechanics, and all the mechanics are there. It's just that you haven't been using them effectively, and in the back of your mind, okay, as I keep going, I'm using more mechanics that were taught to me, and I'm getting very afraid of when I have to use all of them.
Right, so it's just kind of like your checkpoint of, do you actually understand the game now?
Yeah, it's like when you play Yu-Gi-Oh! It's like, okay, you know how to play with your friend, but do you really understand the rules? Because if you go up against someone who knows how to play, you're going to get your ass beat. And that's what Library Ruina is like.
Xenoblade Chronicles 3 kind of has a moment like that. I remember when I was going through, and I was kind of over-leveled, and then I hit this boss, and it just absolutely curb-stomped me, and I was like, oh, this is the part where I actually need to know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the first time I took notice of a wall in a game was Monster Hunter World. It's like, once you hit the Anjanath, that's it. You actually need to actually know how your armor works and all your weapons, and just kind of bash your head against the Anjanath until you actually get the DPS check, basically. Or the not die check.
Yeah, so that's essentially been my week other than work. So, Shinki, why don't you go next? How's your week been going?
It's been going. Like I said, I've been sick, so haven't had much time to do anything. So I started up a game today. City Shrouded in Shadow. It is basically Disaster Report. If anyone knows what that game is, it's more or less a series where you start off as just a normal person going about your life, and then all of a sudden tsunami hits, earthquake hits. I mean, it just random stuff. It is a very over the top game. And virtually you're just trying to survive to a point where you're being rescued, or sometimes some of them have multiple endings where you either die or you save somebody in the process, like a sacrifice. But this one is made by the same people. It's just a little different because instead of earthquakes, tsunamis, and whatnot, it is kaiju, Japanese kaiju like Godzilla, Ghidorah, Mothra. What else did they add in there? Ultraman's in there. So like literally there's tokusatsu or Power Ranger based monsters fighting in the middle of the city, and you're just trying to avoid dying. It's pretty ridiculous. It gets over the top.
Yeah, no, I remember this game getting announced ages ago at a TGS, I think it was, and everyone all over the place was so excited for this, and it just never came out to the West. It stayed Japan only, and
that
sucks so much.
The only way to obtain this game is through a Japanese PSN or websites like PlayAsia or something, and PlayAsia is really expensive.
Oh, really? I never checked the price on PlayAsia.
Yeah, they're really expensive. Like, usually it's like $70 or $80 for like what would be a $40 game over here in the States.
Yeah, it must have been short printed.
That reminds me of a Strange Journey. The Redux, the 3DS, they had a 25th anniversary box that didn't come to America for a pre-order. For pre-order America, it was just the game. But the box, they had like 5 art books, 20 CDs of the soundtrack from the entire 25 years the franchise was out, a black box with gold ingrain, and on PlayAsia, it's like $400.
Yeah.
Even though when the box released, it was $120, and it's like that's
but it's a collector's
more
item.
than triple.
Well, it's like the same. It's like Square Enix Japan only getting Crisis Core's special edition or collector's edition, should I say? It's pretty cool, but I don't know if it's worth the price they're wanting for it.
No, it's absurd, and it just gets more expensive every year. So I just lose even more motivation to own it.
Living in a place where Square Enix doesn't even ship to, if I want anything fancy from them, I'm paying additional shipping.
Yeah, no, Square Enix is
like
always
middleman
the worst.
theme.
Square Enix is always the worst about their special editions. Either it's Japan only or North American Square Enix website only, and it's like, guys, you have fans all over the world to do something.
And even if it's North American, it's usually sold out within
Minutes.
Yeah,
like like as soon as it's up on the page, it's usually gone.
Especially if it's Final Fantasy VII related.
Yeah, well, that's why I'll be waiting when Final Fantasy 16, when they get their collector's edition up. I'll be waiting for it.
Yeah,
I got extremely lucky with the Final Fantasy 15 one, or unlucky depending on your stance, because I just randomly got it through a raffle. I still had to pay for it. Like, they were raffling off if you had the opportunity to pre-order it. And yeah, I just kind of lucked out on that one.
Imagine Charlie gets the golden ticket. It's like, all right, kid, you still got to pay the entry fee for like $200.
But anyways, so the game isn't bad. Like it's got some issues. Like they all kind of got some issues. Like your character's either too slow. Sometimes you don't make jumps. It's got quick time events. And most games nowadays either don't have quick time events or they're not too bad nowadays.
Yeah, they've been phased out because around that time they were super popular.
Yeah, there's a lot of them in this game, but it's not bad. It's the story's kind of over the top. You go through literally in the first 5 minutes of the game, you get attacked by Ultraman. Well, you think it's Ultraman, but really it's just a clone of Ultraman, and then there's another one, Ultraman, fighting him. So it's really over the top, and you get to a point where this building blows up, and behind it there's these Yakuza chilling back there. They're doing some kind of deal. You witness it, so they chase you throughout the entire game while all this crap is happening. It like literally is over the top and makes no sense. Like, trying to kill you while you're trying to escape the city. Like,
So is there sort of an element of humor to it, or is it playing it all straight based?
No. There's always been humor in these games, so like it's always been like I said, over the top in terms of like crazy stuff going on with the world. And then there's always been just crazy characters throughout the story that just like adds ridiculous dialogue or something to it, like try to add humor to people getting crushed and mutilated. But it's just over the top because like literally these Yakuza guys chase you. I mean, at one point you get on a boat and they are literally still chasing you while they're on boats. And Godzilla shows up in the middle of ocean and you're trying to avoid him while avoiding bullets from the Yakuza. So it's just too over the top.
You would think in the middle of a kaiju attack, the Yakuza would be stopping all of their activities.
Yeah, so that's the crazy part. Like
no witnessing.
Yeah, you figured they would just stop. Like, no, they chase you all the way into the middle of the ocean. They chase you all the way to the end where you just escape. And like literally the final part of the game is you either talk your way out of Yakuza killing you, or you kill them, or you escape on a helicopter. So those are your three choices. But it's not bad. It's got a lot of cameos and crossovers, like Neon Genesis Evangelion's in it. So you have
I remember the trailer that showed that.
So so you have the Ava units fighting. There's another mobile police, Patlabor, I believe is what it's called. It's like an old Japanese.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. It's like kind of like before. It's like.
So it's just everything.
Yeah, it was like it's a precursor to like Gundam before. It was like way before Gundam. Like it's really old style animes and Kaiju Godzilla. It literally has everything. Like, and I feel like the whole reason it never released outside of Japan is because it has so many
there's so many
copyright issues. Yeah.
Way too much to license it out.
Yeah, there's too many licenses in game because you have like Neon Genesis, you have Godzilla, Ultraman, Gamera, Paddlebar. The list goes on from there. Like it's got way too many licensing issues, and I think that's the whole reason it never got out of Japan. It's still a fantastic game. It takes about, I don't know, it took me about 6 hours from start to finish.
Yeah, and you mentioned there was 3 endings there as well. Like, just the ones where you reached. Do you know if there's any other ways to reach multiple endings?
I'm sure there are, because these games are big on like heavy collectibles. Like, I know you can save people. Like, there'll be points in the game where you can choose, like, there'll be someone hanging on and you'll have a choice to either save the little girl or the old man. And like, it's like, okay, which one do I choose? Well, I went with the little girl because the old man's already old.
He lived a full life.
Yeah, right. So I imagine there's probably different endings based off of who you save and what you do. And like I said, there are collectibles that change stuff. And different costumes and outfits. You can change your character's personality and stuff based off of your decisions early on in the game. So you can like literally make your character just have like low IQ throughout the whole game. So their dialogue options are just absolutely wacky and make no sense.
The low playthrough.
Yeah, like literally, like one of the things you can choose at the beginning is to be like high maintenance or like low class. And you can get to the point where you start off and your character has a clown wig and a nose and a clown's nose. And that's what your character starts off with. It's just over the top, man. But I'd have to say I would recommend people playing it. It's got some.
You just kind of have to go out of your way to get it.
Yeah.
And if you don't know Japanese, you'll have to have a guide along with it.
I feel like by now someone probably already, since it's been out for quite a few years. I want to say this game came out in like 2013, 2014, something like that. It's been out a good while. So I want to say somebody has to have put up
a translated guide.
Either translated.
Yeah,
Just
2017. Okay, I think 2014 is when it was first announced. Yeah. So it's been out a good few years. So I feel like someone's already done like some translations for it. In hell, at this point, you might be able to find it just as like a simulation, put it on a simulator or something. You might be able to, but it's pretty easy to get on the PSN. You just make a Japanese PSN account, and you can buy credits through PlayAsia for fairly cheap. I think the game itself costs like I think it costs about $30 US, so it's not too terrible.
Yeah, no, that's fairly cheap. They'll probably put it on sale every now and then as well, I imagine.
Yeah, I'm sure. But that's really about it. I've played that, and that's really about all I've done recently. Been watching Trinity play Pokemon Legends Arceus a little bit here today, but that's about it.
Okay, cool. Kaizer, do you want to take over with Horizon now?
Oh, so yeah, when Horizon came out, as everybody well knows, it came out at like a terrible time, which is apparently apparently just a series tradition for them. So I can't wait to see what the third one releases opposite.
Just like Titanfall 2.
Yeah, people got to pick their release windows better.
Yeah, Sonic's coming out a day before God of War.
I don't know if there's too much overlap in those audiences, at least. But like Breath of the Wild and Elden Ring both being massive, hugely anticipated open world games, and then Horizon being like massive open world game as well. Like it really didn't play well, which is why it's taken me so long to get around to playing it as well, because of course when Horizon came out I completely ignored it and played Elden Ring, like most of the rest of us, I'm sure.
What was it, like 5 million people bought Elden Ring in a month?
Yeah, it was big.
I'm being completely honest. I had no intention of playing Elden Ring. I didn't even see any trailers. And then the day Elden Ring came out, I was like, oh, it's out. And I looked on the Steam page. I was like, I'll buy it, whatever.
Honestly, that's what I did with the 2018 God of War remake. I was like, whatever. Like, I've kind of stopped caring about God of War. And then release day had come out, and I was like, you know what? I have the day off today anyway, so I'll just buy it and start playing it. And I absolutely loved it because I went in with no expectations.
Oh man, I have words to say about God of War, but that's better left another time.
We'll wait until Ragnarok comes out. You can get it all out at once.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's 2018's free now, I think, right? Like on most like PSN.
If you have a PS5 and PlayStation Plus, you just have it for free.
Yeah. So I need to play it, but I don't know. Like I stopped playing God of War like good while back, like obviously before 2018, because I just felt like I thought it was just gonna be a reboot until I decided to watch the story, and I was like, okay, it's not a reboot.
It's a gameplay reboot, but the story continues.
Which kind of bothers me, to be honest, because like I feel like Norse gods and Greek gods in the same universe is just kind of strange.
I don't know. I liked it, but I guess that's for a different time.
Now, we're here to talk about robot dinosaurs.
Yes, that's correct. It took me a while to actually get the game. I got given it as a birthday present last month, so I just sort of started working my way through, and I left it for a while because I expected it to just kind of be, more of the first one, and I played the first one back not long after it came out. I absolutely tore through it because I had the week off work for a health related thing that was keeping me up late. So I was like, I'll just play a new video game, a massive open world. And I remember like I kind of came around on it by the end. Like it was still a big open world, but it was one of those cases of like, yes, but this is a good and refined one. And the story was genuinely engaging. So I figured eventually I'd pick up Forbidden West, and it does basically pick up exactly where Zero Dawn leaves off. without going into the story too much, that one ends with questions unanswered and like who is the villain behind this villain and all of that sort of stuff. So you pick up and Aloy's on a quest to figure that out, and she's got some character development to do and all of that sort of stuff. So I came in, having been a fan of the story of the first game and expecting the next one to sort of pick it up. And I had a pretty good idea of where it was going to go, and most of my predictions were correct. And for the most part, I enjoyed it. It gives you a whole new region. It's massive. Like, I don't know if it's the biggest open world in a game, but it felt like it sometimes. You've got new like tribes. You've got new robot dinosaurs to fight. Lots of cool set pieces along the way. But yeah, like I said, I won't go into the plot too much, but having recently finished it, it kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's moving a little too far away from the robot dinosaurs for my money. I kind of feel like that's what people wanted out of the series.
Yeah, people, and that was a lot of the heavy marketing for the first one was the robot dinosaurs as like the interesting part of the world.
Hey, but thankfully it wasn't your money.
That's true. Yeah, so it does make me a lot more forgiving about things when it's not my money going towards it.
Right, you're like, okay, it's gifted to me. I'll give it a chance.
So
yeah.
So having played both, do you feel like it's a substantial improvement over the first one, or is it kind of like more of the same, continue the story a little bit, and there's like minor improvements here and there to make the game feel a little better?
It's one of those things where they didn't. I guess it's kind of like Neo to Neo 2 in that, it's not a revolution of the game design, it's a refinement. So they've brought in like some new mechanics, they've tweaked some things, but it still very much feels like a progression from Zero Dawn. One of the main things that they did that I really appreciated was they improved melee combat. Because
that's really always sucked. Yeah, I remember when Infamous 2 was like, melee sucked in the first game, so here's a weapon to make the second game feel better, and it actually did help quite a bit.
Yeah, no, actually, that's a pretty good sort of parallel to draw, I think, because it does kind of feel like that step forward. Because it's still like the melee is still you fight with Aloy's spear and stuff, but it adds a bunch of it actually adds combos. It adds sort of this energy build-up mechanic where if you hit an enemy enough, then you can do a heavy attack, and it like puts this little orb thing on them, and if you shoot that, it explodes and deals a bunch of damage, which is actually quite good to try and work into combat, especially in groups of enemies. So the melee combat was much better. Unfortunately, it doesn't really get a chance to shine anywhere except against human enemies, because most of the robots, if you're close enough to be like hitting them with melee, they're close enough to be like tail swiping you and flinging you halfway across the map.
Yeah, because I don't play Horizon, but I was watching my brother, and I can say that, it does have that. There is definitely significant gameplay improvements when it comes to the melee. And if I'm not mistaken, the amount of ammo you can carry was reduced from the first game. Because you had like I guess that game's version of the sniper rifle. So you couldn't just stock up a bunch of resources and then spam your sniper rifle ammo until the whatever you're fighting is dead. You had to actually use more than one weapon in the second game.
Yeah, it definitely encourages variety, especially early on, because it's one of the things that I didn't really like with Zero Dawn that Forbidden West keeps is like the irritating little crafting element that every open world feels the need to have. Yeah. So, you can craft upgrades for like literally every type of maximum ammo, and they all require like animal skins and stuff, which you have to go out into the world and find the animal and hunt them, and then it's a random chance if they drop like the high value things that you need to craft your ammo pouch upgrade. And if you craft it, then you can hold like 2 more of this max ammo of one like weapon type, and you've got like 8 different weapon types. So it's a lot of grinding and crafting. Yeah, it's just busy work for the sake of like,
for not a lot of payoff.
Yeah, exactly. So that element I didn't appreciate coming back, especially since they've got like more weapon types in this one as well, because all of that progresses and gets bigger and better and all of that sort of stuff, but it just kind of it brings some of that baggage with it. So that's something that I think all open world games should like do away with most of the crafting stuff, because all it does is add busy work.
Crafting is the new loot box.
Well,
I think it's the old one that refuses to go away.
Yeah, no, because
that's true. That's true.
It's been around for a long time now.
It is terrible. Like, I don't know. That's why I didn't enjoy Breath of the Wild. That's why I won't be playing the new one, just because crafting and the fact that the weapons have durability. I'm good.
Yeah, weapon durability is always the worst one.
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, even the Master Sword had durability. Like, it didn't break, but it lost its charge to where you just couldn't use it really.
Yeah, so, I think it's lost weapon damage and also lost its projectile. I'd be fine if it was just losing the projectile, but losing the damage as well really sucked the draw out of it.
You take literally the best weapon in the game, like the Master Sword, and then you nerf it. So no,
a stick is.
I remember being really disappointing getting that.
Yeah, and they make you do so much busy work to actually get the Master Sword too. Like, you can find it pretty easily, and there's like, no, come back when you have enough health to actually survive picking it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a slap in the face for the payoff, despite how much effort you have to do it. Because I think you need like 20 hearts in order to pick that thing up.
Yeah, something like that.
Takes a while, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's got a name now, doesn't it? Tears of the Kingdom. I'm hoping that they improve that sort of stuff.
Yeah, because Breath of the Wild was fine, but I could easily see it being improved on, and I hope that Tears of the Kingdom does improve on it quite a bit.
Yeah, they've got the opportunity if they've been taking the feedback in.
So, Kaizer, this I know it wasn't your money, but this was $125 redos. Do you think that price is justified with what you played?
I think if you're coming at it from one of those, like, money spent versus amount of time you'll spend on the game, yes. Like, I will admit I am the sort of person who does occasionally just want, like, a Ubisoft open world to just burn time on for a while. And if you're in the mood for something like that, Horizon is probably, like, the top shelf of any of those sorts of games. It actually has a good plot, good characters. The open world is, like, interesting. Fighting the robot dinosaurs is fun. Knocking off components and, like, you know, finding something massive and knocking one of its cannons off and then picking up the cannon and destroying it with it. Like, all of that is great fun. But I wouldn't have bought the game. So if somebody hadn't bought it for me, I probably wouldn't have played it.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
Because, at 125 AUD these days, I'm being very careful about what I actually spend my money on.
Yeah, no, 125 Australian is a lot to ask for.
Yeah, God of War has me on faith from the last one, but that's probably the only one I'm buying for a while.
Yeah. And I don't think we caught it, but would you recommend this for people, or like is it just like what you said of if you're really needing that Ubisoft open world, then go for it sort of thing? Or do you think it's an overall recommendation?
Look, overall, I still think it's a good game. I think once it comes down in price to something slightly more reasonable, I'd recommend it to anybody. But right now,
it's a sale item.
I'd be hesitant about recommending it at full price just because, for me, it doesn't tick all of the boxes.
Yeah, that's
but it was
fair.
still a fun experience, and I will go back and play it for some post-game stuff.
Basically, thank you for the birthday present.
Yeah. Cheers, Mark.
All right, and I guess I'll just roll into Bayonetta 3 off that. So, this is a weird one because I think this is a really, really good game, but it's doing a lot of things that you would want after playing Bayonetta 1, like with the teasers of all the demons in the first game. You actually get to use them in this one. But there's a lot of trade-offs between Bayonetta 1 and Bayonetta 3 that I'll have to get into. Yeah, first of all, I guess I'll just go with I'm about 3/4 of the way into the game now, I think. I'm getting pretty close to the end. The story's starting to build up to all the revelations are going to start taking place. But even at this point in the game, I'm still unlocking a lot of game mechanics, and that's really interesting to think about for this game. It's like kind of like how in Devil May Cry 5, you didn't unlock Nero's Devil Trigger until the actual end of the game. And this game
exactly where my mind went.
Yeah, and this game's kind of like building on that of like, no, there's going to be more and more mechanics kind of built into, will tutorialize you along the path. So early on, you kind of like unlock Bayonetta's abilities to transform into like miniature versions of the demons, and then a little later, you'll unlock like 4 or 5 missions later, you'll unlock the ability to use them as the end of your combo extenders. So you'll do a big flashy combo finisher, and then Bayonetta will flash, and you can hit a button, the demon summoning button, to make the demons come out and do an additional hits to add even more damage onto the end of your combos, which is a pretty cool system, I will admit. It's kind of alleviated my early complaints from the first few chapters where I was like, I kind of like this demon summoning mechanic, but at the same time, I feel like it's dragging out the game time and the combat a little too much. Like, they're a big pace breaker because Bayonetta has to stand still, and then you start controlling this very big, hefty demon to take out the bigger enemies. And that's also kind of like a minor complaint I have, in that I feel like there's too many large-scale enemies that you have to use the demons for. So you're kind of losing that flow that made Bayonetta very fun to me.
It's kind of like I don't know. Go on.
Go ahead.
No, it's like a catch-22. It's like, okay, you make the demon summoning. Well, you need a unique enemy to make the demon summoning. So put in the big enemy. But the big enemy is annoying because you have to use the demon summoning.
Yeah, exactly. To fight that thing. And even then, they've reworked some older enemies to be kind of in that same caliber. So, like Mission 1 of Bayonetta 1, you fight this, I'm forgetting the name of the enemy, but it's basically like this very big baby-faced enemy with a giant axe. And they take a little bit of work. They're chunky boys in the first game, but you can work around them, and using witch time properly, you make fast work of them. But in Bayonetta 3, they've kind of been reworked into being like, they start making shields that can only be broken by the demons. So you kind of have to work around the new mechanics to make these old enemies that used to be tolerable and fun into kind of annoying to deal with because of this new mechanic.
Like DMC Devil May Cry with the color-coded enemies.
Yeah, basically. That
comes off as a lot more annoying than how you're describing it.
Yeah, no, the color-coded enemies are a lot more annoying than using demons, because the demons actually control well, and when they're working good, it does feel really great to be in control of them.
Well, it sounds like it's a bit sort of up and down, so I might be jumping the gun a little bit to go straight to this question, but do you think that the addition of the mechanic with the demon summoning is worth like the pace breaking that sometimes comes with it?
I think so. I think it's fine for this game because Bayonetta 1 and to an extent 2 still get to exist in their own bubble, and this does add enough to the game that it feels worthwhile, even if you don't like this compared to the other ones. It's still a worthy experiment to have.
Okay. Yeah. Adding game mechanics like midway to like late game is always kind of weird, especially since you've been playing it for so long, and it just kind of like throws you into another tutorial about midway through the game, and you're just like, what is going on here? I don't know. I always thought it was weird when games did that. You mentioned you mentioned Devil May Cry 5 with Nero, but the fact is Devil May Cry 5, like his Devil Trigger was part of the plot, so it was a little different because it was actually a plot-based thing compared to just, oh, here's a new mechanic.
yeah, and this still does a couple of them that are plot-based, some of them weapons, some of them power-ups. I don't want to get too into it because it's still a fairly fresh game and I don't want to spoil any big surprises. But yeah, there are story-related upgrades as well that will happen that add more mechanics. But yeah, going off the Devil May Cry 5 tangent a little bit more. So you spend like the first half of the Devil May Cry 5 playing as Nero, and then the back half of it playing as Dante. Same thing happens in Devil May Cry 4. And
Well, in 5, it's even worse because you have to play as Nero. Then you cut away to V, which plays nothing like Dante or Nero. And then you cut away to Dante again. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, so in Bayonetta 3, you play like 6 or 7 missions in a row of Bayonetta. And then they give you Viola, who's a new character for this game. She's basically the Nero. She's supposed to be like an introductory character, which is weird to introduce her so late. She's also much simpler in that she only has the one weapon compared to Bayonetta's like multitude of weapons that you can switch between. But
like Nero and Dante.
Yeah,
sounds like a pretty easy parallel.
Yep. The problem is, I don't think Viola is the catch-all easy mode character like Nero was. She's actually a lot more difficult to get a handle of, in my opinion, because they switch out. She still has a dodge like Bayonetta does, but they switch out Witch Time from being a dodge mechanic to being a parry mechanic. And something that was like really, really troubling me at the beginning is that dodge is on right trigger and parry is on right bumper. So you're playing so much as Bayonetta where your instinct is an enemy's about to attack, hit right trigger to dodge, and then activate Witch Time. But no, now it's now I've got to rewire my brain to be like, no, I need to hit right bumper to block the enemy. And even then, the timing is a lot tighter than it is with Witch Time. So I'm taking a lot more hits with Viola than I would as Bayonetta. And it's a bit of a weird mix between she's supposed to be the beginner-friendly character, but it feels like she's more made for people that are like really in-depth into these games.
Well, it sounds kind of like, it sounds exactly like the opposite of Devil May Cry 4, because you start off as Nero and then jump into Dante. It's like vice versa with this one. You play as Bayo first, and then you jump into Viola later.
Yeah, I was going to say, getting her later.
Yeah, getting her later makes it a little weird, because you start off as Nero in Devil May Cry 4, and you're just used to playing him until you get Dante. And then you get
the freedom.
Yeah, once you jump into Dante, you're like, okay, he plays exactly like he does through Devil May Cry 1 through 3. So it's like nothing's changed with him other than
style switching and his movement.
Yeah, the fact that you can use what is Nero's hand, Devil Bringer? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Being able to use it to get to extended heights that Dante can't reach. So at that point, you're like, okay, I've lost some movement, but I'm okay because I know how to play this character.
Yeah, and that's why it's so weird to me, because once you unlock her, they start twisting around the formula where it's like, so every major chunk of the game is broken up into 3 stages. After the first set of 3, which you play as Bayonetta through all 3 of those stages, the next set is Viola, then 2 Bayonetta stages, and that's going to be the pattern throughout the rest of the game. You go, Viola introduces you to the next multiverse layer, and then you play her stage, and then you go into Bayonetta's stage, and then you do like the big climactic cinematic final boss showdown for that area. So that it's weird that you play like 6 or 7 stages as Bayonetta, and then you go into that pattern where I feel like they should have introduced you with Viola earlier on to get used to how she works, especially when a lot of her mechanics are supposed to be designed around being easier than Bayonetta. You don't need to worry about weapon switching, her demon summoning mechanic. So if the demons take too much damage as Bayonetta, they can get enraged and turn against you. And you can use that to your advantage if you're good enough of blocking their attacks, but at the same time, they're like really, really difficult to deal with. Viola doesn't have to worry about that at all. Her cat Cheshire is very connected to her. They're basically best friends rather than a master and servant relationship. So Cheshire can take as much damage as he wants, and he'll never turn against Viola, so you don't have to worry about that. And so, yeah, it feels like she's supposed to be the beginner character, which is why it's so odd that they've reversed the play role between the Nero and Dante and Bayonetta and Viola.
Yeah, because Nero was pretty easy to get a grasp of, like, as soon as you start. Like, I mean, the Devil Bringer gives you the parrying system right off the bat, shows you how to parry, like, immediately, so...
And you can grapple with the Devil Bringer, which Dante can't do.
Yeah, so that definitely made things different. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't know, like games where you switch back and forth between characters. Sometimes it's kind of weird, especially when it comes to something like that, like a hack and slash style game. It's not so bad when you're playing a game like Octopath Traveler, where it's just a JRPG where you're just switching between these characters until eventually they meet up plot wise. So I don't know.
Yeah, no. It's definitely weirder than an RPG because RPG you still constructed to like your attack, magic, and skills. This is like wrapping your head around a whole new gameplay style.
It's like almost playing a different game in some aspects.
Yeah, like it's got all the familiar controls that you're used to. You've still got your attack, your kick, your guns, and everything, but they all work so differently that it might as well be a different game.
Yeah, and I think the same thing kind of happened with Devil May Cry 5 with switching between 3 characters. It kind of was like, okay, I'm used to 2 of them, and now there's another one that's just kind of off the wall, trying to learn how to play it. And I mean, the game's great. Like, I love that game, but it definitely just adding more and more characters definitely makes the game feel weird sometimes.
Yeah. 100%.
At least V's fairly easy to learn how to use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And V's got like a very limited moveset, and he's only got like 3 stages. So overall, he's not like a big damper on the game.
He feels more like gimmick character.
Yeah.
So like his moves are like, oh, they're fun.
He's basically Devil May Cry's version of Summoner.
Yeah, and Bayonetta 3 feels like an extension of what V could have been.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to touch on with Bayonetta 3 in that, like, it's a weird trade-off, like, this whole demon mechanic traded off to make something different for the sake of this game as well, is that, so in Bayonetta 1 and 2, all your weapons could be attached to your hands or feet. Some of them were only, like, hands or feet only, like, the ice skates you're not going to attach to your hand, and the swords you're not going to attach to your feet unless you're the Bayonetta 2 swords, in which case that's fine. But no, this is like the weapons are just weapon sets, like how they would be for Dante. So your guns are just like a set of guns you'll always have, and then you switch to, like, let's say a microphone. You can't attach something else to your feet, even though you'll be using your hands for the microphone. It's just, that's it. The microphone is your weapon set. And I feel like that's kind of removed a bit of the identity that Bayonetta had, where there was this whole mix and match element to the gameplay, and it's being taken away in sake of this demon summoning mechanic again. And that's a little disappointing for me. I really like that mix and match element, and yeah, that is. I'm just kind of bummed out that that's gone.
Can you swap the weapons like in the middle of a fight?
Oh yeah, you still have like it's not as freeform as Dante is. You can only switch between 2 weapons rather than his big arsenal. And so far, I think I've got like 8 weapons for Bayonetta that are on board. So that would get a little, that would get a little overbearing. But it's still like kind of 2 is the maximum. Where in Bayonetta 1 and 2, you could have like you'd still have the 2 like weapon sets, but it'd be a potential of like 4 different weapons at once.
Okay, so they've sort of, they've changed it so that you've got more of the like on the fly swapping ability, but they've removed the ability to, I guess, mix and match your own sets.
Yeah. And in doing that, they've also kind of removed like redundant weapons. Like Bayonetta 1 and 2 have like, here's your pistols, now here's your shotguns, now here's your rocket launchers. They've kind of removed those sort of redundancies in favor of like more personalized and gimmicky weapons. That's neat, but I still wish there was that mix and match element.
They've streamlined it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I've been enjoying the game. It's just kind of a mix of, I like this, but I prefer what Bayonetta 1 offered. And while this is still fantastic and getting up there, it's not quite as good as that first game was for me.
So, how far are you into the game?
About 3/4, I'd say. I've the advertisement showed 5 Bayonettas, like 1 that you control and 4 that you'll meet. I'm up to the 4th one now. And after that, I'm sure they're going to be doing a lot of like wind up towards the end game.
All right, well, speaking of Bayonetta, I think that could be a good hopping off point to like the first topic in your little news section with about her OG voice actor.
Yeah. Yeah, so the whole thing with Helena Taylor got more intricate, I guess, or not. It's a lot more clearer now than it was before. So last week we talked about, me and the other co-host talked about the first set of these tweets that she made where she talked about how she was only being offered $4,000 for recording Bayonetta 3, and then Kamiya kind of like made himself look like a dick, which got everyone on her side even more. I think we also covered that Bloomberg came out and made an article about how it was actually going to be $4,000 per recording session, so 15 to 20k overall, and that was where we left off last time. This time, Helena Taylor's come out onto Twitter again, and she's gone, no, everyone's calling me a liar. Let me tell you how I lied about the situation before by admitting she was being offered 15k initially, and no one mentioned this number before. She said any claim that she was asking for $250,000 is incorrect. I don't remember seeing that number flown around. I've just seen people say she asked for 6 figures. So maybe she did ask for that and she's accidentally let that slip.
Suspiciously specific denial.
Yeah.
And the weirdest part was when she talked about like, oh, here's the math I did. And it's just like, that's very clearly just the first Google search of how many copies has Bayonetta franchise sold?
Yeah.
Okay, take that number times 60 per copy. All right, it made that much. It's like, that's
not how that
okay.
works.
Not how revenue works.
Yeah, so she's made
how that works.
She's made the claim that Bayonetta as a franchise without merchandise sales is like $250 million, which is like, no, this is a very small franchise. Each one sells like $1 million to $2 million.
Halo barely made that kind of money back in like Halo 2, Halo 3. And that was like on MSNBC.
Yeah, that was like the game for years.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think if we're talking about GTA 5, sure. But I'm pretty sure Rockstar paid the actors for Michael, Trevor, and Franklin like a lot of money because they weren't just voice actors. They did everything with those characters.
Yeah, and I feel like that's mainly like Bayo. A lot of people have played Bayonetta 1, and I don't know too many people that have actually been like, yeah, I played Bayonetta 2.
Yeah, no, Bayonetta 2 was
on the Wii U. Who cares?
Yeah, it was a Wii U game.
I think it's one of those things where,
I didn't see anyone was like, yeah, my favorite game is Bayonetta 2. I'm like, okay.
Like, it's a respected series, but it's not huge.
It's respected enough to get into Smash because Nintendo published Bayonetta 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Most people just consider it like a Devil May Cry clone, but it's not. It is in some aspects, but it's not. Like it
shares DNA because Hideki Kamiya made both.
Yeah, Kamiya made both.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's Devil May Cry's little sister.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no. Helena Taylor kind of like dobbed herself in. That's turned everyone against her now, and to add salt into the wound of turning everyone against her, on launch day for the game, she's put out some more tweets going, hey, instead of buying Bayonetta 3, go donate to these charities. One of them being a anti-abortion charity in Kentucky. So even if people were on her side before, this is like the worst fan base to do that to.
Yeah, that
hasn't painted her in a very good light.
Choice. Probably should have gone with some like, oh, let me just Google up some like what are the top 5 safest charities to donate to? I don't know.
Feed the children.
Red Cross. Yeah, feed the children.
Save the puppies.
St. Jude's. Yeah, St. Jude's Hospital for like that's for I don't know if Australia ever heard of it. But St. Jude is a hospital like branch in America, and they exclusively deal with kids with cancer. So it's like,
cancer.
oh, just donate to St. Jude. Okay, like kids with cancer. Yeah, go ahead. That's kind of a divisive one to put up for a donation.
Divisive is the word. Yep, that I would use.
Yeah, let's leave it at divisive. But yeah, no, this is... I don't see her ever coming back in the video game industry now.
I think the thing that annoys me the most about all of this is I'm worried now about the additional skepticism that voice actors are going to face if they do talk about like being undervalued, because that was a whole thing a few years ago where like I think didn't like the voice actors union for video games like strike.
Yeah,
They did.
yeah, and that was a big thing as well with like this Helena Taylor story was like she was replaced by Jennifer Hale, who's one of the faces of that video game voice acting strike movement. So it's like she wasn't going to get lowballed offers like if Helena Taylor had been before, which she wasn't.
Yeah, and speaking of like the thing, it's just like it kind of feels bad because like okay, there is a topic of discussion to be had with pay and voice acting. Because if I remember, I think Sean Chiplock, the guy who did the bird dude in Breath of the Wild, the main guy, he come out and when that first broke out, he publicly came out and said, yeah, the role I made for Breath of the Wild, I've made less money than that 2 throwaway lines I just had as a cameo in Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, and he voiced 3 characters in Breath of the Wild.
And it's like, the entirety of Breath of the Wild, I've made less money than that. And it's like, okay, that's a discussion. But now because of all this, it's like, okay, that's still a discussion to be had in certain things, but it's just attached itself to this weird, controversy.
Yeah,
and so
everyone's just trying to move away from Helena Taylor at this point and just keep it on video game and voiceover payments.
Yeah, I think it damages some of the good faith to have something like this happen.
Yeah, definitely. So, I guess keeping on the topic of people getting replaced then, Liam Hemsworth is going to be replacing Henry Cavill as Geralt in the Witcher Netflix series.
I hadn't actually
you meant
seen
Gary,
this.
the metrosexual.
There's a lot of speculation on why this is happening. It's no secret
Probably
though that it's no secret that
Superman.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that would be my assumption.
There's that, but there's also no secret being made that Henry Cavill hates the writers for the Witcher series. Like he's constantly having back and forth with them about keeping things book and game accurate, while the writers do not respect anything about the Witcher lore. So he probably wanted out if they were going to continue being like that.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any of this.
Yeah, no, The Witcher was a passion project for him. He really loves the series and the books.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's kind of the same thing with like 343 Studios and Halo. And it's just like, oh, we hired people who hated Halo, and it's just like,
Why?
that
What would they bring to Halo?
Now look at Halo. No Forge, no split screen co-op for a campaign in Infinite. It's just like, I mean, they hated Halo. They turned Halo into not Halo.
It's one of those things where it's like, we need to make this appeal to the people that it doesn't currently appeal to. And it's like, well, yeah, but if you change it too much, then who does it appeal to?
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but Liam Hemsworth, it's like, you know what? He's a enjoyable enough actor. I feel like I'm not kind of the right person to say this, because when it comes to Witcher, it's like, Witcher 3, good. Witcher anything else?
Yeah, I haven't seen this series, but I'm just bummed for Henry Cavill, I guess, because he did generally seem like he was going to enjoy being Geralt when they first cast him, and it sounds like it's been nothing but bad news since.
I've only watched the first season, so like I don't know about how far off book or anything like that it gets, but I do know that, like, yeah, he absolutely was playing that role as a passion project, and he was loving it. So, like, when I do get around to watching season 2, I guess I'll probably be watching it with a more critical eye to, like, will I bother continuing to watch this?
How much did he try and save this?
Yeah.
At least, what he said for the Superman stuff, he's like, I'm gonna enjoy coming back and working on more of a Boy Scout Superman. It's just like, that's all I wanted. I just want Henry Cavill, and I want Boy Scout Superman. I don't need injustice. I need truth, justice, and the American way Superman. I need All-Star Superman. I don't need
It's
But
been
what
so
about
long
Dark
since
and
that's
Gritty?
it's been so
I
long
do
since
not need
that's
that for
happened for Superman in like live action or like most media that it's actually surprisingly going to be a breath of fresh air.
Good.
And yeah, and rolling off that, they also announced that The Witcher is going to be remade from the ground up for Unreal Engine 5, the first Witcher game, which
CD Projekt Red announcing 5-6 new projects that's going to take them a lot longer and a lot more time and money to make. Again.
yeah, announcing
It's
things
like,
too early.
Again. And they're going to do all this stuff. It's just like, guys, you've learned your lesson.
Took like 10 years, 11, something like that.
Well, I
Something
think
like
they
that.
weren't even working on it when they first started advertising.
Yeah,
for it.
they
Which is stupid
advertised it,
because
and
they
it's
should
just
have they should have waited until they had something to announce.
Yes,
Besides,
they should have.
Besides, the ink is dry. The ink is still wet. We just signed it. Here is a CG trailer.
Yeah, we can all just jump on the conversation of Versus 13 and how long that took.
You mean
not
how
only
it never
Versus
came
13,
out?
Yeah, but speak back to Cyberpunk and CD Projekt Red. So it's like they announced 2077 so early, they deleted everything about their original build to restart it. Like, I think more than once. And Square Enix did the same thing for 7 Remake. It's just the difference is Square Enix is a literal billion-dollar company. They can do that. They can just hire somebody else to make it from the ground up. CD Projekt Red is not that. They're just a game studio.
I think the funny thing is with that example is that Square Enix hired themselves to remake it from the ground up after they outsourced it originally.
Yeah,
but they could afford to do that because they've got other projects. They've got Final Fantasy 14 to bankroll things like.
Yeah.
APR has The Witcher 3.
We can't forget Dragon Quest.
Yeah, no, those are definitely true. It's just I think it's funny that instead of like handing it off to someone else, they're like, oh wait, we'll do this ourselves. Give it back.
Like Versus 13 into 15 had 3 different teams and 2 different name changes, like over a 13-year period.
I remember reading articles, and this is like one of the few times I felt bad for Nomura because I don't like him as a writer. And it's just like, while he was working on Versus 13, because that was his baby, he didn't find out he was directing 7 Remake until they showed the trailer to the offices, and he saw his name there as director.
Yeah, I remember that.
Great
and he's just like, how am I supposed to do this? And they're just like, oh, here's the neat part. You don't. You're working on 7. Versus 13 is not your game anymore.
Yeah, and even when he wanted to make Versus 13, it was a skeleton crew because people kept getting moved from that to 13 regular and then the 13 trilogy and 14 because Square Enix really needed those projects to be saved. Which, in the long run, 14 being saved was a good thing.
I like as soon as they gave it to Tabata, everyone was like, oh, well, someone's going to die. At least the main character's going to die by the end of it.
Yeah, it's Tabata's trick.
Tabata is such a frustrating director for me because, like, okay, your games are mediocre as best, except there are, like, glints and, like, shining moments of, like, absolute brilliance in his games. It's just like, overall, it's just such a whatever game that he makes.
After 15 and its basic failure, he ended up jumping ship, didn't he? He ended up making his own studio.
Yeah, he left to make his own studio that hasn't released anything yet. As far as I know.
I mean, to be fair, what's his name? Itagaki, he made Devil's Third, and his game studio is still up, and he's just like, oh no, I have friends with, like, Russians. He's just a gangster with a game studio as a front. Like, I don't think they'll ever make a game again. He's just a criminal now.
Yeah, that sounds accurate. Especially after Devil's Third was like a front of a video game itself.
There you go.
Yeah, actually to the article, I guess. From what a lot of people I've seen talk about this. I haven't played Witcher 1 myself, but a lot of people are like, yeah, no, The Witcher needed to be remade because it wasn't until The Witcher 2 where the game was actually acceptable to play. Like, The Witcher 1 has a good story in it, but playing it itself is hell.
That's
I played
what I've heard as well.
I've watched a video of Witcher 1 and seen its gameplay and systems. It is absurd. It's like, oh, you need to make a potion. It's like, okay, it's like the crafting. You know, crafting in 14 is like, oh, it's in depth, yada yada, blah blah. That might as well be Witcher 3's crafting system. compared to what Witcher 1 was doing. It's a gigantic clusterfuck. It's the Eurojink in all the wrong ways.
Oh, that's the stuff you want to hear. That's what you love about Eurojank.
Yeah, but not in the Metro 2033 good way. In the, I don't know, I haven't played any bad Eurojink games. I always avoid them.
Yeah, no, and
in 20 minutes making a potion and 15 minutes of running to the next cutscene and 5 minutes of cutscene.
And then dying in the combat, and then because checkpoints aren't a thing, you have to reload your last save. Okay.
So it was in need of a remake.
yeah, unlike other remakes recently.
Last of Us.
Last of Us. Yeah, let's remake a game that just came out less than a decade ago.
When did Witcher 1 come out,
This is the
actually?
second time, too.
2013.
Witcher 1 was 2013?
Oh, Witcher 1, sorry. I thought you were meaning Last of Us.
No. Yeah, I was wondering when The Witcher 1 came out. 2007. So that's
Ooh,
fair.
okay. Yeah, it is a bit old.
That's 15 years
fair.
now. It'll probably be 20 years by the time the remake comes out.
It'll probably be 25. Are you kidding me?
Year versus 13 was announced.
Yeah,
I'm kind of hoping with CDPR that like The Witcher to The Witcher 2, like I haven't actually played all the way through The Witcher 2. Actually, I'm not even sure if I started it. I think I might have just watched somebody else play a little bit. But like everybody says it was a massive jump in quality, and I'm kind of hoping, because there will be like a Cyberpunk 2078 or something that like
They already announced it.
They'll
They
get it
announced
right. Oh, they have?
something. Yes, they have.
Oh,
They announced They
I know
announced
this
like
DLC.
3 Witcher projects,
Yeah.
a new Cyberpunk project, and they announced Witcher 5. And it's like, you guys can barely make one game on time. Why are you announcing 5?
I think there's like a major expansion for 2077. Like it's like full on
I've heard
expansion.
of that. Yeah.
yeah,
that's
they
a
also had
trailer,
a
and
sequel
it's just
in the
like,
works somewhere.
Yeah, they're saying this
Well, that was
expansion's,
inevitable.
Like, on par with like a Final Fantasy 14 expansion, but for 2077. So that ought to be pretty decent.
After Blood and Wine for The Witcher 3, I'd believe that they'd work to that kind of scale.
Yeah, they can do that. But for the Cyberpunk one, I'm kind of, trepidation because of just how Cyberpunk, I don't know if, I'll just avoid spoilers, but how Cyberpunk 2077 ended, it just felt kind of awkward for have a DLC like expansion, especially if we're just playing as V again. Like,
I think it's set before the end.
Yeah, that's what's happening. It's like, here's just some like, it'd be like a Fallout New Vegas kind of deal. So it's like, and then you just go to, I don't know, somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
It's
cool.
also kind of like a little weird sounding, like from an outsider's perspective. Like, well, it's just going to be set before the end. It's like, so there's going to be like this massive chunk that was like just randomly inserted into the middle of it.
Especially
also, it's just like there's a time limit in 2077.
That was one of the main things for me is like 2077's plot is very like, okay, once things start happening, you don't have a lot of time. Like, you're on a clock. And now they're just going to be like, but for a month, you went and did something else.
It's like, okay.
Well, unless they go the Fallout 3 route with, like, I don't know if y'all played Fallout 3, but, like, literally the end of the game, your character dies. The
broken steel thing.
Yeah, literally the first major DLC for Fallout 3 made it retconned it immediately. Like, you didn't actually die. Here's the story. It continues. You're like, okay.
Thanks, Bethesda.
I don't think they're going to be able to do that though, because Cyberpunk actually does have a lot of variation to its endings. So,
and they're pretty good endings. So it's just like,
honestly, like at a pure writing level, I thought Cyberpunk 2077 was good.
Yeah, like
it's just a lot of everything else.
Yeah, when like as a whole package, Cyber 2077 is mid, but like now that it's working, obviously, as closer to intended.
I need to go play it because literally when I started playing it, there was just random poles that popped up out of the ground as I was driving. It flung me 1,000 feet in the air, and I was like, I can't play this.
Yeah.
What I did is I just put all my graphics settings to like low. Ray tracing is turned on by default, and it's just like, bro, most computers can't do that. Why is this on by default?
Yeah, relatively speaking, ray tracing is still pretty new in the graphics card scene.
Yeah, it's just like, ray tracing being introduced for the PS5. Okay, cool. Most PCs can't do that.
Need to fix the game and for technology to catch up, and then you can play 2077.
Yeah, seriously.
I knew Cyberpunk was a game that I was going to wait on. I still haven't got to it. Maybe when I do a PC upgrade.
It was one of those games where, like, you could tell it was going to be an absolute shitstorm. Like,
even then, even then, I'm not too into Western RPGs, which is why I was just going to wait because I didn't want to risk $110 on a game I wouldn't like.
That's fair.
Just wait a little while. Just do what The Witcher 3 did when they add everything all together and like all in one bundle, like a Game of the Year edition kind of thing.
Yeah,
so, you know they'll do it. Probably they'll release it and then it'll be on sale like 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah, I knew, like, after all of the delays and stuff, it's like, okay, there are going to be serious problems here. But I love the universe. I run the Cyberpunk tabletop game. So I was like, I'm kind of in for a penny, in for a pound on this one anyway. So let's just see what a glorious mess it is. And, oh boy.
Okay, so...
Speaking of glorious mess, Sonic Prime, what'd you guys think of the new trailer? I don't give a shit about Sonic, so I got nothing to say.
I'll admit I haven't even seen it.
This is literally here because I give a shit about Sonic. So I can just talk about this for like 2 minutes by myself and that'll be fine. But no, the new trailer's fine. They show off that for some reason the team is going to be 5 characters. For some reason Rouge is joining the main cast of characters somehow. It's going to be weird when that happens, but I'm kind of into the idea, and just generally it looks like another multiverse story. I don't know what the fuck is going on with it, with Hollywood and games recently, but multiverse is all over the place. Does anyone know why this is happening?
Yeah, Marvel did it, so we all have to.
Yeah, it just feels like it feels like too quick of a turnaround. It's got to be like everyone decided multiverse at the same time, right around the time like 6 months before Avengers happened.
So is Bayonetta 3 doing the multiverse thing?
Yeah, Bayonetta 3 is a multiverse story as well.
Oh, Lord. I wonder if
enjoy Devil May Cry 6.
Yeah. Oh, Lord. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Well, to be fair, when it comes to Devil May Cry, Itsuno's seems great. It's like, okay, we're making like one game a generation, and then we're kind of done.
You know what? Dragon's Dogma was a multiverse story, kind of.
Let's not get me started on Dragon's Dogma. Let's go back to talking about Sonic.
Dragon's Dogma 2, he's in that right now. They could go all in on their multiverse story for that one.
What Itsuno did to Devil May Cry 2 to 3, please let him do to Dragon's Dogma 1 to 2. That's all I'm gonna say about Dragon's Dogma.
Dragon's Dogma is like the greatest 7 out of 10 I've ever played.
More like 3 out of 10, but I mean, like, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's all. Right, so Sonic's going to come out on Netflix on December 15. I'll probably just binge that right away if it's a binge. If it's week by week, then I'll wait for it to all come out.
Well, Netflix doesn't do week by week. Netflix is committed to the binge. That's why JoJo Part 6 is failing in popularity, because they're just doing batch releases.
They also said recently that they realized that the binge method is doing harm to them, so they're going to want to start doing week by week at some point.
Yeah,
I can see how
started with Sonic.
Please don't start with Sonic. Please start with JoJo. Please.
It's too late for JoJo. They already released it all.
It's killing. They didn't release it all. The last episode they have is when they leave the prison. They still have the whole second half of Part 6 to go.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, like, the current season that they have available is already too late. Now we've got to wait, like, another 6 months.
Yeah.
Releasing Stone Ocean in 4 parts.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm so happy.
Pour one out for JoJo. And
honestly, I actually am, like, I do think that the binge, I don't know, method, I guess, isn't as good a way to watch shows as stretching it out a bit. I don't like when they release them in like batches and then there's months at a time between them, because like things like half seasons I despise, but like an episode a week of a show, I actually do kind of feel like it sticks in your head better than a binge.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that kind of why when Witcher Season 1 and Mandalorian came out at the same time, more people talk about Mandalorian because like, oh, binge Witcher, you're done. But you watch 1 week of Mandalorian and you're just like, I want more.
Yeah, no, Disney Plus has proven that the week by week on a streaming service is still very viable and keeps the interest around much longer.
I mean, I see why it works for a streaming service because you've got like a subscription that you want to maintain, so it keeps people around longer. But yeah, like Better Call Saul coming out week by week, and I was watching that. Like, I remember details of that show that I would not have remembered if I just binged an entire season in one day. Because
you would have, because it's Better Call Saul.
Yes, exactly. Like, if it had, I was, as soon as those episodes came out, I was finding time to watch them. So.
And you know what? Just to jump on it for a second, because you mentioned it on the server earlier, Stranger Things Season 4 probably could have benefited from a week by week, because those were long episodes that needed to be binged.
The movie length episodes. Holy hell.
2 and 3 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, 3 hours for an episode, the heck?
Yeah, the last episode was like...
It's like 2 hours, 20 minutes.
2 hours.
Yeah, like it is a movie.
Yeah.
Those were commitments to watch.
Yeah.
No.
we were going to sit down and watch the last 2 episodes because that's how we like to do that. Because, you know, second to last episode always ends on a cliffhanger. We couldn't do it with this one because it's like, I'm sorry, I cannot find a 4-hour block of time to watch 2 episodes of the show.
More like 5, because you still gotta like take a break in the middle. Damn.
I think Trin and I did that. We did watch both of them back to back. It was a long stretch of time to do that.
Yeah.
I watched them all in one day. It took the whole fucking day.
It does, yeah.
I did that with season 3, but that was because it was just a rainy day when nothing else was going on. So
yeah, it was
we
a Saturday.
started watching.
I didn't have to work on a Saturday, and I was like, yeah, I'll watch it all.
Quick question.
Yeah, but because of that binge, I don't remember that much about season 3, to be honest.
Quick question: Is binging season 4 still a shorter runtime than binging the extended cuts of the Lord of the Rings movies?
No, I think season 4 is longer.
Yeah.
Damn, I was hoping the joke would run that Lord of the Rings is still longer somehow.
No, I think because it's a 9-episode season, I think it's longer.
If you count the Hobbit trilogy as part of that, then yeah.
Oh, well, that's different.
Yeah, no, I'm just counting the Lord of the Rings.
Not entirely, because it is still part of the Lord of the Rings lore, so...
Yeah, but let's just not count it.
Yeah.
They should have turned one book into 3 movies.
One book that's like a fifth of the length of one of the Lord of the Rings books.
The trilogy worked out so well for the others, it has to work out well this time.
Everything has to be a trilogy all the time.
Poor Peter Jackson. They brought him on after they booted out the first director. Like, hey, we're making a trilogy of The Hobbit. Can you, like, fix it? I don't know.
The fuck is a Hobbit?
I don't have a lot of sympathy for him. No.
What's the next one? Pokemon reveals Grievard. Oh, that's that ghost dog, right?
Yeah, I love it. I'm putting it right on my team right away. The only problem I have with it is that his ability is pickup, which is such a useless ability.
Could be buried, bro.
Thanks. I don't use those. This is Pokemon. I'm having trouble. I'll go level up like twice. There we go. No trouble.
I hope it evolves just so that it loses pickup.
It is a pretty crappy ability.
I was kind of thrown off ground because I thought it was going to be a ground ghost type, but it's just pure ghost as well. A lot of the new Pokemon,
I think... Pokemons have 2 forms.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure most dog Pokemon have 2.
So there's a decent chance it'll have another form.
Yeah.
So is it a base Pokemon, or is it an evolution?
Grievard, we've only seen the one form, so this would be the base, and they might be hiding an evolution somewhere.
There's another.
You can usually tell looking at them.
There's another dog Pokemon that was announced for this too, wasn't there?
Not.
I feel like there was another.
I don't think so. I know there was one in the last gen. Let me do a quick look.
Oh, I know we got the pig, Lechonk.
Yeah, there's Lechonk.
Yeah.
But brilliant. Thanks, Nintendo. Like 20 years too late, but good on you for catching up, I suppose.
Oh yeah, there was another dog. That was Fido.
Yeah, I knew because he was a pun on. He was literally like a pun on dough. Like there's like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
he looks like a loaf of bread.
Yeah,
I could have sworn there was another dog one. I was thinking maybe Grievard was like an evolution to that. But
that would be weird going from dough to skeleton candle dog.
Can you imagine? It's like that's the evolution. Well, why did it evolve? It's because we ate it.
Okay.
That's the lure. He was eating.
There's been worse. There's been worse Pokédex entries than that.
Yeah, Marowak.
God, Cubone in general. The Cubone lines are always the worst.
Yeah.
Drama.
Drifloon, Stealing Children.
Hypno. Stealing Children. There's a lot of Stealing Children ones. Like, yeah.
It must be really bad to be a 10-year-old in that world. Wait a minute.
Game Freak, are you okay?
You leave home to become a Pokemon trainer at 10? There's all these Pokemon that are dangerous to 10-year-olds?
Alright, everyone, media literacy check. Let's philosophize on why there's so many kidnappings in Pokemon. Part 1 of our 2-hour podcast.
The dark underbelly of Pokemon.
Dark underbelly of Pokemon is just going through every Pokédex entry one at a time.
They don't check those, do they?
No, I'm pretty sure they're all intentional, because when they wanted to phase out Mega Evolution, they're like, you know what, we're just going to write that every single Pokédex entry that Mega Evolution hurts the Pokemon, so you don't want to do it.
Oh, okay. A couple of years of animal cruelty for the series, that's fine.
Is that really how they did that?
Yeah, the one I
Just
remember... the one I
like a ball, it just starts crunching its bones and screaming. You're like, oh no. Don't
To be fair, this is a series where you enslave and then dogfight monsters, so, like...
There's not a lot of high
That's
ground
true.
there.
Get back to work, slave.
So you have your tour chicks and you're just having cockfights.
Just stapling blades to its claws. Alright, come on.
Let's move on from that. So this one Kaizer put onto the Discord earlier as well, because I think he's the most excited for it. But Wolong is coming out on March 3rd next year.
That's a lock-in for me, that's for sure.
It's pretty good.
I've still the parry system. I'm probably gonna have to get used to it, but you know, I love Neo 2. I love Ninja Gaiden, the 360 games. So odds are I'm gonna like this one. But I think I can be patient. But I'm definitely more excited for this than I was for Sekiro.
Yeah, no, I played the alpha demo for this, and it's doing a lot of interesting things just overall that I'm really digging into. So I don't know if it'll be day one, but like, it'll be pretty early for me.
Fucking difficult though.
Yeah,
some of those enemies are really hard. Like that big like lion tiger.
Yeah, no, the tiger fucks me up so many times, even when I was well above its level.
That's pretty within their DNA, though.
This is Team Ninja, right?
Yeah, it's Team Ninja, so it's got that Ninja Gaiden feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I keep saying this, every time they make a new game, they get closer and closer to just doing Ninja Gaiden again. It's going to happen one of these days.
It may be, but because, like, remember, Ninja Gaiden 3, when it first came out, was ass. They had to make Razor's Edge, which was just okay. And then they made Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z, which was
I don't think that was Team Ninja. I think that was someone else.
They still slapped Ninja Gaiden on it.
Yeah.
I am wondering a little bit at this point whether, like, the members of the team just kind of don't want to go back to it because, I don't know, maybe it feels a little bit cursed, or maybe they feel like they've moved on since then.
And they've mentioned it before, and I think they said they would like to go back to it at some point, but they're just so focused on doing new things that there's no time to do it right now.
Yeah, and plus, speaking back for Itagaki, it's just like, Itagaki made those first two Ninja Gaiden games what they are because they were crazy games. Like, and for Ninja Gaiden, the original Ninja Gaiden 2, not the Sigma releases or any of that. It's just like only Itagaki would be like crazy enough to have this borderline unplayable game released on an Xbox. Like, even if you go on the emulation for Xbox 360 or Xbox, that game cannot run on emulation because it's just so poorly put together. And it's just like, okay, it runs good enough. The frame rate will drop down to like 3 when 50 enemies shows up on screen, but goddamn, it wasn't fun.
Yeah, the frame rate's going to drop down to 3, and you're going to be bombarded by exploding kunai.
Yeah, and it's just like, only Itagaki would think that's acceptable and somehow get it to run in the first place.
So, how was the Stranger of Paradise DLC?
I haven't gone to the second one yet, but the first one I thought was fine. It's going to require some grinding to do, though.
Yeah, I saw that. I was watching some people play because I played just the base game. I haven't played the DLCs, but it looks like they want you to grind pretty heavily to do the DLCs. Like it looks like it's like some crazy end game when it comes to fighting Bahamut.
Yeah, no, Trin and I just barely scratched past Bahamut when we did it together. And that took us like one of us had to spec into doing the white mage and the other just do damage.
Yeah, I think one of the things for Team Ninja is like, because for all their Souls-like games, it's like, okay, you finish the main story, you don't put it down, you go back and you start grinding up for the green tier gear, well, epic gear, or whatever the hell it's called in Neo.
Yeah, they're treating all their games like Diablo 2.
And you do that, and you do that for a few months to grind up and get good stuff. So when the DLC comes out, you're already good enough level. But if you're a normal person, I beat the game, put it down. DLC comes out, I'm getting my ass kicked. You know, it's just like Team Ninja.
I think Neo 2 was pretty good about that, actually.
Neo 2 was better. Neo 1 was actually really bad with it.
Yeah, because the DLC did have a linear progression. It's just the DLC also dropped with successive levels of New Game Plus. So it's like, you could go into the first DLC campaign after you'd finished the main plot, and it'd be like a little bit of a jump, but it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, Neo 1 was really bad with that.
Yes, Neo 1 was really bad.
Yeah, the way Stranger of Paradise is handling it is like, when the base game out, you got to at level 300 with the chaos difficulty, and then the first DLC dropped, and it's like, okay, if you made it to the end of the chaos difficulty, then you're prepared for the DLC. And then they added a whole new difficulty level and another 100 levels, and then the Gilgamesh DLC just dropped into like, if you did everything for the last one and made it to the end of that one, then you're ready for this one.
It's like, no, Ninja Theory, I only have so much time. I need to do something
Ring
else.
came out at some point after.
I want to experience the levels and the fights. I don't want to have to grind through the entire game again in order to hit the level where I'm allowed to get in.
And it's not like, Neo, where you can just kind of cheese your way with enough skill to just nitpick and dodge. It's more RPG like. You kind of need the numbers.
And I won't go into that, because, I have opinions about the differences in formula between Neo and Stranger of Paradise.
I still think it's Game of the Year so far.
They're entirely different games. I mean,
very much so.
They have the same, like, kind of premise in terms of how they play, but, like, gameplay-wise, they're definitely different.
They go in very different directions,
Yeah. Like,
I just like when in Stranger of Paradise you manage to ungo your way through everything and you just become a Beyblade of chaos destruction.
Everything's chaos in that game.
Yeah, speaking of co-op fantasy games, on the PS5, the Sony London. So
yeah, this is just like very quick. I just want to mention it real quick.
I literally never heard of it until you put it in the document. So
Sony London usually does games that take advantage of like PlayStation peripherals, but it looks like they're getting a chance to make a actual co-op game for real this time. I kind of suspect that maybe this will be one of PlayStation's first attempts at live service now that they've acquired Bungie. If that happens,
right. Yeah, they did.
If that happens, this is going straight to a don't care about this game sort of situation.
Yeah. Well, here's hoping it's good. I guess it's still a little too early.
Yeah, still way too early. It's just like they've done is drop that we're making a game that's based in a fantasy London and it's going to be a co-op game.
As long as it's better than Babylon's Fall, should be all right.
The bar is on the floor with that one.
Any game successful if you can outdo that one.
Speaking of too early to say, Forspoken, too late to say for me to care. So it's like, Square Enix, please buy Forsaken.
Literally every social media post about this is the parkour looks fun. So they did an entire trailer about the parkour system to go, hey, do you still care? Please still care.
No, I don't, Square Enix. Goodbye. It's Infamous, I think. You get isekai and you're playing as Cole McGrath. Alright. I've seen like 2 trailers. I have no idea what the hell the game is about.
To be honest, I don't either.
And I've
the dialogue still scares me.
The dialogue feels like someone made a satire of a Marvel movie, and then some business exec saw it and thought it was a real script and made the whole thing be written like that.
One of the writers on this did Rogue One.
You're kidding.
Oh God.
Yeah, so it's not going to be great. Yeah, last large-ditch attempt by Square Enix to try and make this game relevant. I don't think it's going to work, especially not for 125 Australian dollars. Fuck off.
I don't know if I'm like worried about Square Enix. I shouldn't be because 14's doing so well, and
they've managed to bankrupt themselves almost 3 separate times.
Because we've had a lot of failures recently that aren't JRPGs. We got
Balan Wonderworld,
Balan Wonderworld, and now this. So I'm a little worried about them. We can push back with Final Fantasy 16, and obviously 14 just keeps racking in money for them. Like, that's their saving grace at this point. Like, obviously we knew that
7 will print money.
Yeah. That'll print money. We knew that's the reason they waited this long to make it, because they were like, okay, this is our out right here. Like,
I love that. Yeah, prior to that announcement, they were like, we're not going to remake Final Fantasy VII until we feel we've made a better game than Final Fantasy VII. And then they announced it after 15.
Hey man, why don't they just remake Final Fantasy VIII and actually complete it?
Why not make 8 good?
I mean,
I'm going to be fair to Square Enix on your defense, Kaiser. They did it after one of the 14 patches, expansions.
That's a good point. Yeah, fair.
So, yeah, I think 8 would be better if it had a year development from 7 to 8. And over half.
5 to 6 was also a year, and that game is glitchy as hell.
Yeah.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Like, take one of those old ones that's like sprite based. Like, you could really like give that thing a glow up. Any of those old ones.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 6 would be perfect because then we won't have SNES. Okay, here's 2-3 dialogue boxes for a story. We could actually flesh things out.
Yeah.
We could actually have emotions instead of, just thing. Because 6 is like fantastic. We can fix some of the grinding. We don't have to go from, oh no, Kefka destroyed the world at level 40. In order to enter the final dungeon, we need to be level 70.
Yeah, no, I know.
We can fix that.
I know a ton of people want them to do like a HD 2D game for Final Fantasy 6, or even one of the other older ones, like what
having
Traveler reads.
Having played through 4 like semi recently for the first time, like I'd love to see that remade because like going back to it with modern standards, I guess, but I still feel like you could do more than that because like 4 is like its story is bare bones, but there is like the good bones. You could really flesh that out into something great.
The voice acting in the DS version is so terrible. The fact that they call Cecil Cecil bothers me so bad.
That's how I called him.
I don't call he is Cecil. I've always known him as Cecil.
Oh, look, she'll always be Eris to me. I think you all sound like you're talking with a lisp, so.
Speaking of 4DS, it's just like, I kind of like how it's, even though they remade 4 as a DS game, and they could have added so much stuff, which they kind of did, they still kept it, like, simple, kind of, because, like, okay, 4 is a SNES game, so the remake kind of still keeps that vibe. It's like, okay, things just, like, when Rydia has PTSD of her village on fire and she's over it in like 2 hours. It's just like, that's the kind of stupid nonsense that happened in those old games because they just didn't have time to flesh it out.
Yeah,
and I feel like that kind of adds to the charm of just, this is just an SNES game with a fresh coat of paint and voice acting, which, I think works in 4's case. For 6 and 6 onwards, the games become way too complex for me to feel satisfied with just a sentence here and there. But 5 backwards, they're kind of stupid games. They're kind of silly, simple games. And I kind of like they still kept that vibe with 4DS.
I think there's room. Like, you could do both. I think you could have it both ways. Like, you could have a remake that endeavors to turn it into a whole thing. Because, no remake, I think, could ever capture the quality of those old Final Fantasy games on the SNES and all that sort of stuff.
We haven't gotten any new information about Final Fantasy IX's anime yet, have we? Other than
no, just that exists. Yeah, it just exists.
Yeah,
I'd rather not hear anything about it.
I don't know, man. Like,
when it comes to Square Enix anime, it's like, okay, they made a World Ends With You anime. I fucking love the World Ends With You.
Yeah,
that anime was not good. It was just like, okay, what other Square Enix like original anime off their games have they made? I can't even think of any. I know they made original movies based off their existing things. It's like, okay, Seven Advent Children is fine fan service if you're like 16 and still love Final Fantasy 7. I'm 27.
I still think Advent Children is great.
Hey man, Advent Children Sephiroth is in remake, confirmed. So it's canon.
I'm gonna go off on 7 remake.
Yeah, I'll avoid talking about that one. I have opinions there too.
Me and you, we're gonna get along, Josh. Great. We're gonna yell about. The amount of time we spent talking about everything else, you and me could talk about 7 remake.
But
yeah, we've been on like 20 different Final Fantasy tangents already. Let's just go into the 16 trailer.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, because I actually really like this trailer. I think
it's a great trailer.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot we can talk about with this trailer really, because it's like a lot of world building stuff. It's
just it's pretty self-explanatory. It's like, here's some lore. Here's like 1-2 combat scenes, and here's some fights with the primals.
Well, yeah, it's cool. We're seeing the icons, and we know that basically the plot's going to revolve around them having this all-out kaiju war.
Which is so good, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. Although I'm very interested in the way they're gonna see how they're gonna do Clive, because it looked like he was just using their abilities while fighting them at some point. So how each dominant has their own icon. So I'm kind of curious as how is he using these abilities.
Well, as far as we can tell, he isn't actually he doesn't actually have an icon of his own, so he just seems to be like borrowing other people's abilities.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. It's like it's weird because he's using it it seems like these the icons are like these all powerful gods like they always are in Final Fantasy games, but the fact is he's using them just in battle.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how they do that.
It could be a mixture of trailer shots we want to show cool shit, even though it's like in this you're seeing Garuda abilities being used against Garuda, for example. Like that's not actually happening in the trailer, but like just example. Kingdom Hearts Freezer advertisements kind of did the same thing where they showed that world's Keyblade in that world trailer. So it could just be like developer tools unlocking things early for the sake of showing them off. Or maybe like there's a story thing, like you meet with these icons before you fight them and you gain their abilities
or something.
Yeah,
because I would...
You gain their trust. Garuda steps on you for a little bit.
Well, I mean, it looks like he's sleeping with at least one of them.
Oh no, that's not Clive sleeping with them. That's that's Odin.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that Odin and Garuda's dominance are from the same country.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
And they're sleeping together.
Oh, okay.
Because Jill is Shiva, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not enough violence in that Garuda one. I'm not happy.
No, I don't know. Like, I think it'll be interesting. Like I said, I hope they do well with explaining how Clive does use the abilities, because I feel as though killing dominant to gain their abilities would ruin it for me, because I don't know. I just think killing people just to gain abilities would be a really, really terrible way to do it. And a lot of games do that.
Yeah, I feel like they're setting up the dominants to be much too important as characters to do that with them anyway.
Right. I agree with you.
Maybe have them kill them off at the end or something. I'm more concerned on this is Final Fantasy's first M-rated game. What are they going to do?
Well, they've already shown what they're going to do. They're going to have sex.
I meant like throughout the whole story, right?
And they're gonna stab a little kid's dad right in front of him.
Well, yeah, there's
more
definitely much
content,
more
yeah.
like upfront blood.
Yeah, we know
there's
upfront blood,
also
upfront nudity.
dismemberments happening all over the place. Like fingers and arms are getting chopped off pretty regularly.
But I hope the story themes, what I mean by rated M, I hope it's like rated M as in like, okay, this is like an adultish story and not just this is what a teenager expects an adultish story to do. You feel me?
Yeah, I get that. And I think that's where a lot of
video game, so this video game, so it's definitely going to be the latter.
I think that's where a lot of like the fans are hoping there's some Game of Thrones vibes, because we know that the 14 team likes Game of Thrones, and
it's the Heavenswood team, is like, or at least the writers as well, isn't it?
Yeah, the Heavenswood writers, which you can kind of get that from the beginning as well, with how it opens and closes the book at the beginning.
When really like the OST for this game is going to be phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely! Like
I want to say I think that's probably the battle music when it showed the icons. If that's the battle music, just the straight up battle music for it. Oh, that's
the music
so
across
good.
every trailer so far has been absolutely phenomenal.
I just hope that
is Soken doing it.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's Soken.
Yeah,
he's talented. He's been OS music director for 14 since it started.
Yeah, no, 14's got some bangers, man.
Also, one more thing I want to touch on real quick is that in this trailer, it looks like being a dominant actually like drains the life force out of people. Like you see a couple of like husks of bodies completely drained white or on the verge of being completely drained, and I think the trailer said it had something to do with being a dominant.
There's some voiceover about like them just using dominance and throwing them away.
Yeah. I like the DNA strain they show when they're turning. I thought that was pretty cool.
Speaking of that, I too would rip off the superior work of literature that is Naruto and the Jinchuriki.
Oh yeah, this is just a Jinchuriki thing as well. Also, I'm going to be comparing this a lot with Bayonetta 3, because Bayonetta 3's big boss fights all have massive kaiju battles as a phase for them. So it's going to be interesting seeing how that game does them compared to what 16 ends up doing when they do the massive kaiju battles.
They have Devil May Cry 5 guy come in and work on the combat. I just hope it feels as good as Devil May Cry 5.
He's also the Dragon's Dogma guy, so it could go that way as well.
Please don't.
I feel like it'll probably be a Nier Automata situation.
Yeah,
where it's like,
it looks very Nier. Yeah,
like it's got some of the DNA of that, but it's pared back a little bit so that they don't like alienate the audience who doesn't want it.
Right. Yeah, it's probably like a mix between Nier and Devil May Cry.
From like the 5 shots we've seen of gameplay, it looks like it's got some DNA from Dragon's Dogma in that, like all your face buttons do something, and then you hold a trigger to change what those face buttons do.
Well, Dragon's Dogma's gameplay was phenomenal. I love the gameplay, so I can't really argue with that.
I think at this point, all I really need from 16 is just give me a proper gameplay trailer. Like, I don't want to see half a second interspliced before I see like a Garuda cutscene. I just need to see like a nice 5-minute slab of gameplay so that I can get an actual feel for combat.
Yeah, like even just show off the Dragoon fights. That's gonna be early game, and that's gonna be like a minor boss.
Yeah,
I feel like it's gonna be much longer than we think it's going to be, mainly because even the new artwork they just showed already shows a couple. It looks like a couple icons that have not been shown in trailers at all. Like Leviathan is on this.
Leviathan was on
piece of art. Yeah, and they have not shown Leviathan in any of the trailers so far. So,
and people are speculating the icon at the top might be Diablos.
Yeah, and I'm hearing rumors about people speculating some stuff about Alexander possibly being on there somewhere. So,
cool giant robot. Hey, I'm all for it.
Just make it one of the castles turns into Alexander like they did in Final Fantasy 9, I think it was. Just do that again, and I'll clap.
I think the town was literally called Alexandria.
It was not subtle.
The only thing I want out of 16 is just like to really, really enjoy 16 without having a caveat, right? Because like I enjoyed 15, but whatever my complaints are, I enjoyed 12, but whatever my complaints are. The last Final Fantasy game I enjoyed, just without a caveat, without me going on a tangent and why I hate this game, is 10. And 10 came out 20 years ago.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in that same boat of the ones I've played, and I played most of the ones post 10. Is that 10 is the
I assume,
one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I assume we're excluding the MMOs when we talk about that.
Excluding the MMOs.
Because 14 is just a whole different can of worms.
Yeah, 14's good. 11's even good. If you can go back and play through the shitty HUDs it has and some of the grotesque character models, the storyline for 11 is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind experiencing the storyline for 11 sometime.
Yeah. Since 14 is the only MMO I've played aside from, Adventure Quest,
Same.
Yeah, probably not, because MMO is like, the gameplay is fun enough, but 14,
it's very different.
Yeah, it's very different from what I'm usually playing.
There was one other thing I wanted to mention about this as well, real quick. We haven't seen any of the trailers, but they released some character descriptions for some characters, and for the one that's Odin's dominant, they mentioned that Beastmen are in this world as well. That he single-handedly fought off a army of Beastmen to keep his nation, and I hope we see more of those. I hope we actually see some Beastmen show up properly and interact with them.
Gonna get a Final Fantasy 14 connection.
I mean, it's the same team, isn't it?
Yeah. There's definitely
a lot of them. Yeah,
there's definitely parallels to 14, like the Desert Kingdom being the one that loves gold and is like
money.
Really rich,
and also the bald black guy.
Yep. Yeah, no, 16's looking phenomenal. I absolutely cannot wait. They also end with it's coming summer 2023, which we knew before, but just reiterating that.
Yeah, let's just hope they don't delay it.
I don't know if they'd have room to delay it, because
let's hope nothing comes along to delay it.
Yeah, because 7 Remake is happening later on that year, so they don't have a whole lot of wiggle room to work with.
Yeah, don't want their two big IPs to compete directly with each other.
That's why Forspoken is so early in the year.
It's like horror movie. It's like bad horror movies that are released in January. It's like, we know you're not going to make money. You're being released in January at the end of our fiscal year, so we can recuperate something.
Yeah, you're our tax write-off. Okay, and now the end of the news segment is going to be a big chunk of Resident Evil news, because right after the Silent Hill stream last week, they did a Resident Evil 1 to compete in the horror shooter market. First one, Resident Evil Village's Winter's expansion is out. It's actually just out now, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about this. They added a third-person mode and a couple of other things, and a massive expansion where you play as Rose 16 years after the events of Resident Evil Village. Anyone touched that yet?
I've seen video. I've only seen about half hour, and because it came out yesterday, I think.
16 years later. Good lord.
Yeah, everything.
All the main characters are dead now at this point.
Everything about the way that expansion is being set up weirds me out.
You got a 60-year-old Chris punching a rock now?
No, I think what it is okay, we're wrapping up the Winters family storyline, and then we're gonna move on to whoever next.
We go back.
Which is so weird, because the main game ends with the story of the father is over. Now it is the time of the daughter, or something like that.
Which you do need a time. So it's okay, acceptable, but wrapping it up in an expansion is going to be weird.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that ending is saying Resident Evil 9 will be about this character, and then it's actually we're just gonna do that in a DLC. Don't worry about it.
I think the Resident Evil remakes 2 and 3 came out between that, and it's oh wait, people love Leon. That's right, and we need to do more Leon stuff before he gets too old.
Yeah, and like, but the only thing I've seen so far is that Rose runs like she has lead in her boots. That's about all I've seen of the DLC.
So did Ethan.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it feels especially worse because you're in third person. So you see, like, that character animation model, like,
Oh yeah.
So
16 teenage-year-old girl running and then not moving. It's
So
like,
I haven't looked at it. So it's like is the third person like does it feel like old Resident Evil's like over the shoulder?
yeah, it's over the shoulder
good?
for the expansion.
Okay.
Yeah, they completely
Is it-
reworked the game to make it work better in third person as well, so you can experience the game
Okay.
fine.
I might actually play it now because the first person Resident Evil's just was not doing it for me.
I think some of the cutscenes in Village will still be in first person, but I know you can play the entirety of...
Okay, so the cutscenes don't bother me in first person. It's just
No,
playing
the
the whole
entirety
game
of the
in first
gameplay has been tweaked a little, so that way, if you do the third person mode, you'll just, play in third person.
Something I also appreciate for the third person mode is that Ethan will constantly move his face out of the way if you try to point the camera towards it, so you never actually see it.
It was always so weird to me that they were like really trying to avoid showing his face.
Yeah, it's just like, it's not like he's a character stand-in. He's married. I'm single. There's already a disconnect here. And I definitely don't want to be married to Mia. She's tried to kill me quite a few times already. And not in like a dominant way. More like, violent, I'm calling 911 way.
Yeah, after the chainsaw, you'd kind of probably break it off.
You've gone into I can't fix her.
It's more like a, hey, I'm calling you from this, Hills Have Eyes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, middle of nowhere, Louisiana swamp after 3 years of not hearing from you. And it's just like, I've played Silent Hill 2. No, thank you. Goodbye.
My initial reaction is to go there alone.
Okay, so moving on to the next one real quick. RE-Verse, the multiplayer game, had its open beta happen on October 23 to 25th. I didn't see a single thing about this. Like, I don't know anyone that played this at all. No one streamed it that I know of. Yeah.
I played the Guilty Gear Strive free weekend. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, no, this just fell under the radar.
Yeah,
Reverse the entire time has felt like this weird thing nobody asked for, and they keep being like, no, look, it's really cool, it's really awesome, and everybody is just like, no, it's
I'll
not.
play Dead by Daylight bro.
Is it Dead by Daylight clone?
Not really, but it's just like, oh, you have like the 4 survivors.
We already have
guy, and it's like, we have Friday the 13th. We have Dead by Daylight. Nemesis is in Dead by Daylight, isn't he? Or some Resident Evil monster. I'm pretty sure
I think it's Nemesis.
They already did a Resident Evil co-op game. Resident Evil, what was it, Umbrella Corps, I think is what
Yeah.
Yeah, but that game was like awful. Like unplayable.
Yeah,
they had they had a mode with 3, was it, or something? As well, there was like a multiplayer mode where one person was like the evil mastermind.
That's Reverse, wasn't it?
Was that Reverse?
No, I don't think that was Reverse.
It was another thing.
May have been something in Reverse that they took from the other Resident Evil. But yeah, I remember that too.
It's just, look, Capcom, I understand you're trying to do something with Reverse. You're trying to do Dead by Daylight-ish. But hey, Dead by Daylight has a visual novel. So, I mean, you're already losing out.
Yeah, no, I just don't know anyone that was into this at all, honestly. It's so weird that they're still trying to push it.
Umbrella Corps, and then there was also Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City.
Yeah, that's
Resistance. That's what it was called.
Resident Evil Resistance.
That came in Resident Evil 3's remake, and it was Dead by Daylight in Resident Evil.
Yeah, Umbrella Corps and Operation Raccoon City were very much alike, and it was like 4-player squad, and it was kind of shitty.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but bad things about Operation Raccoon City.
Yeah, it's pretty shit.
I think me and a friend played it once for like half an hour. I think we rented it, and we straight up just took it back and asked for a different game after playing it for like half an hour.
I don't blame you.
Speaking of dog shit, cloud gaming.
Everyone point and laugh because the Nintendo Switch is a aged console even when it came out and can't run anything. That was another thing with Bayonetta 3, real quick, I want to add in. Bayonetta 3 is fighting for its life on the Switch. It's not running well at all. Which
that was going to be something that I was going to ask. How she run?
Well, Shield Intensive 5 didn't run.
The resolution is like a weird 810p, I think it was. Like, it's a really weird number, and it's never hitting 60 frames per second. It's always chugging somewhere between 55 to 40-ish. And in an action game, you'd want a smooth frame rate.
Yeah, I am consistently impressed that developers managed to make some of the things run on that they make run.
Yeah, at this point, I'm just like, this needs to be somewhere else. Like, even Nintendo, please let it be on PC so it can live.
They won't. They didn't do anything with any of their Wii U games, so why would they do anything for the Switch games?
Yeah, somehow Platinum let the wonderful 101 get onto PlayStation and PC.
Eventually, SMT5 will come out on PC, and it will be glorious, and people will finally get to play it and enjoy it, and it'll be good, but...
Technically it is, but, we're not going to talk about that one.
I mean, also, technically, I can make Bayo 3 run on PC better, but there's some cutscene desync issues happening with that, so the first playthrough is going to be on real hardware.
Yeah. Speaking of SMT5, complete side tangent. I remember the glorious day I saw they modded it to make everyone's ass really fat in SMT5. That was probably the best mod I've seen that year.
The only mod I've seen is making it Cleopatra, was it? The demon?
Yeah.
Making her tan skin so she actually looks Egyptian.
Those designs, real hit or miss sometimes.
Yeah.
But Remake 4, I am tepidly excited for Resident Evil 4 because Resident Evil 4, one of the GOATs. I love that game. But I am happy
that those all-timer lists.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's still kind of stupid.
Yeah, no, it's one of those games
that was one of the things.
Yeah, it's one of those games where they needed to get it perfect, otherwise it would just fail on every front for everyone. And the tone was definitely one of those things they needed to get right, and I'm glad to see that tonally. It's even stupider than Resident Evil 4. You can block a chainsaw with a fucking knife. Going full Metal Gear Rising on this game.
I love how stupid it is, but I hope that it's still like, because Resident Evil 4 is like, oh, here's stupid, dumb, goofy stuff. And then it get like really scary for some reason. And then go back to a little like 2-foot tall guy, throwing a knife at you. It's like, okay, all right.
Salazar's appearance change is terrible. They did him so bad.
But I feel like that's just like, oh, we're doing PS5. Here's the graphics. It's just like he kind of looked better in like old GameCube graphics. But
yeah,
I think there's going to be a reason why he looks like that. Like it's probably got something to do with the plague in this game. But yeah, he's terrifying looking in this. And he's only supposed to be 20. He looks like he's 50.
I mean, he looked like he was 50 in the original GameCube. So.
Yeah. Big Cheese just got a hat.
Salazar gave his big hat to Big Cheese.
Yeah, like I said, Salazar's change bothers me. I don't know, man.
Yeah, the one change that does bother me is because I didn't see like all the trailers for the new Res 4, but I did see some of them, and it's just like, is Ada dressed in just like this really awkward long red dress with the slit? I kind of need that. It just really fit her. Everything about Res 4, it's like, oh, dirty, grimy village where everyone's trying to murder you, and it's just like, I'm dressed like I'm going to a fancy event. All right,
yeah, at the moment she's wearing a red turtleneck, but I think the red
there should be like an alternate costume or something.
There will be.
Yeah, even if it's just an alternate costume, then sure. But I think there'll be a costume change, like because Ashley's all the shots of Ashley at the moment show her with like this jacket on and everything. And I think we'll get like a more like she'll ditch her jacket and look like classic Ashley.
It was
pretty funny. Look like go ahead.
So it was pretty funny seeing Ada run around in just a traditional Chinese outfit with high heels and like
a Bond
literally
villain.
in Europe, in Eastern Europe, just running around.
Yeah.
Just peak, like, written by a man, female character.
Oh, Resident Evil 6 got the worst of that, by the way. But
Yeah.
that's probably another conversation for another time.
Speaking of Ashley, I cannot believe they hid her two biggest assets. Those monkey ears of hers. Those big Bambi Dumbo looking ass.
She's gonna brush her hair back and they'll be huge and you'll clap.
Yes, that's what I want.
You're just
like,
waiting for that
no.
reveal.
I need her ears to be massive.
The giant Dumbo is.
I wonder if they're just gonna. I wonder if she's still gonna be able to be like stolen by the Las Plagas and just hear her still screaming, "Help, Leon!" I love that. That's probably more annoying than Navi from Ocarina of Time.
I feel like they have to at least, like, even if they've changed it, because, escort missions, not beloved. So, like, if they change the game to be a little bit nicer as far as that is concerned, they have to still include, like, a Leon help scream somewhere.
It's always the same fucking thing. It's the same. She screams the same one every single time. Like, they didn't even give her multiple dialogue. It was just the same. Leon, help! Like, okay.
It's like, I'm working on it. I'm dying.
Yeah. God, I hate her.
I think she's fine. A little
There's
annoying,
a lot of
but
times.
she's fine.
There's a lot of times I just let her die. I was like, you know what?
Speaking of, all right, one little nitpick that I have about the new Resident Evil 4, which honestly kind of made up nitpick, but I'll nitpick it regardless. Leon's not racist anymore.
He might be. We don't know all the dialogue yet.
If in the original Resident Evil 4 for the, old GameCube PS2, it's like, oh, we're taking place in Spain, right? Do you know what kind of Spanish they're speaking? Mexican. They're using the completely wrong dialect.
To be fair, maybe that's just why Leon learned it. Like, he learned Mexican Spanish, and then because...
And if you remember,
that's the kind of guy he is.
And if you and the first Resident Evil, in the new one, he's investigating the house. He finds all the blood everywhere. He sees the secret plans to kidnap Ashley, and then the villagers attack him because he knows too much. And if you remember, in the original game, he just walks into a jar, it's like, hey, show us a picture. You seen her? And if in Spanish it translates like, who are you? Get out of my house. And then Leon keeps asking him questions, and that's when he picks up ass to hit him, and then Leon just kills him. So it's like, no, Leon buffs up in this house, starts speaking 4 letters, like, what's going on? Kills him. And instead of hearing like the normal Spanish dialect, he's so racist, it all just sounds Mexican to him.
Yeah.
Resident Evil is a fun franchise.
Typical super cop complex.
There
I
we
wonder
go.
if they're gonna keep the because Resident Evil 4 was real big with quick time events. Literally, the whole fight with Jack Krauser is a quick time event. I wonder if they're gonna keep it.
They need to keep quick time events in there. They have.
They do, but I wanted Jack Krauser fight to actually use the new knife gameplay.
I mean, I'm pretty sure his real boss fight is going to do that, but, like, I want the stupid QuickTime events for that laser corridor. Like, Resident Evil 4 Remake has to have QuickTime events. I don't care if they're annoying and outdated and never were fun in any game. They needed to be in Resident Evil 4.
They were fun in God of War.
Yeah, the laser door is great, and like I said, the Jack Krauser fight, literally that whole fight is a QuickTime event. It's like a 5-minute QuickTime event, and I still love that fight to this day. It's one of my favorites. It's over the top. It almost reminds me of the Leon versus, I can't remember what the dude's name is from the movie, where they're just shooting at each other and running around in circles, firing at each other and dodging.
I think that was Chris, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was Chris, yeah. Leon does some stupid shit, too, like he shoots a billboard.
He's John Wick in those movies.
Yeah, like he shoots a billboard with a 9mm. It falls and kills 2 dogs, and you're like, okay. So yeah, I hope they keep the ridiculousness of the QuickTime events in this.
Yeah, just keep mashing the shoulder buttons to make sure you don't die from a boulder.
Speaking of, I didn't know this until recently. There's no because when you're mashing the quick time events and then you hit the button and it's like, oh, tap A to run away from the boulder, then hit A B to run away, or tap A and then hit LR, and you don't know which one's coming next. Resident Evil 4 doesn't read wrong inputs. It just reads whether or not you've pressed L and R. So if you're mashing A to run away from the boulder, and you know the button to press the button, if you just mash A and B and L and R, it'll go like, oh yeah, you're mashing A and B. That's wrong. But I mean, you mashed L and R, so we're going to give it to you anyway. And that's how it is with every QuickTime event in Resident Evil 4.
That's dumb, but I kind of love it. It's like a bad oversight.
It's just like, oh no, I accidentally hit the wrong button, and instead of giving you a failsafe for hitting the wrong buttons, you can just go ahead and hit the right button afterwards, and you'll still do it correctly.
I actually like that. Stops you from having that twitch moment where it says like, quick, press a button now not to die, and you're like, oh shit, and then you press the wrong one.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, go back 30 seconds and then press the right button, and if it's like any of those ones where it's a random button, it just, that stuff annoys me to no end.
And to make it all cyclical again, we're going to wind this back to Bayonetta 1, because Bayonetta 1 had those, and that shit was awful.
Yeah, press square to not die, and you have 1 frame to press it.
And it was in the middle of a boss fight, which made it even worse.
At least they checkpoint to when the QuickTime event's going to happen, but then you do the QuickTime event, and it's like 2 seconds later, the chapter's over.
And it's like, thanks. Great. I love it.
You just added a continue penalty to my overall score with that.
Thanks, Camilla.
Yeah, wrapping that up, let's move on to the audience question to round out this episode. So Stephen is doing a check-in on us just to make sure that everything's fine and dandy with the podcast while he's away. He asks, what 2 franchises should do a crossover similar to Sonic and Mario at the Olympic Games? Bonus point for what the game should be, etc. God of War and Halo in a boxing game, for example.
Let me go last. I need to think about this. Which game would go with the game I'm thinking?
Okay, does anyone have an idea right off the bat that you want to go with? Because I have one.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you go, Shinki.
I did a little bit of thinking.
Ace Attorney and Danganronpa.
Oh, I could. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that would work.
That's natural.
Yep. Ace Attorney, Danganronpa is obviously a criminal investigation trial-based thing. They have the same concept. So I think they would be perfect together as a crossover.
Yeah, and Ace Attorney's already crossed over with Professor Layton as well.
Professor Layton, yeah. As long as they don't kill Phoenix, we'll be good.
Maya's just put up a trial because she's always put up a trial.
But Nick, I didn't do it.
You said that the last 3 times.
Yeah, one day she actually will be the one who did it.
Keeping up with the one thing I've been talking about all podcast, I'd go with Bayonetta and Devil May Cry, or just make the entire Kamiya universe that he does in artwork already. Beautiful Joe has Alistair show up like the demon sword from Devil May Cry 1, connecting those 2 games together. There's a bunch
Dante's a playable character.
Yeah, Dante's also a playable character in that game. That was added in the PS2 version, I think.
Yeah.
There's connections, very loose connections between Devil May Cry and Bayonetta already, and Beautiful Joe. So just go all in. Let Kamiya make a game where he makes the entire Kamiya-verse real.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see Devil May Cry and Dante's Inferno connection. Be good. Even though we know Dante's Inferno is based off a book. But
yeah.
It still would be an interesting crossover between those two, trying to connect them.
Dante would have made a joke out of that game's Layers of Hell.
Oh, it would have been endless jokes about Dante's Inferno.
So did you have one yet, Kaiser? Or are you still thinking?
No, I actually was inspired a little bit by the album of the week for this one. You might remember back in 2009, I think it was, this little game starring Jack Black as the main character called Brutal Legend.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of looking at some of my art books, and I thought I would want to see a crossover between that and Monster Hunter.
Yeah, that would be very
because I feel like Brutal Legend, like a lot of people didn't like that Brutal Legend kind of started turning into a tactics game towards the end of it, and like I can see why, because there was some weird stuff that happened with like that game's development, but it's still, I like that it had just at a base level the sort of controlling squads of like your units like on the ground level, and I feel like that'd be a really cool thing to be able to do in like a monster hunting game setting where you can be like calling in your dudes to ambush the monster at like this point, and then you're coming up the back, and then just because it's like Brutal Legend and it's set in this world that's just inspired by like heavy metal album covers, like imagine the crazy sort of monsters that you'd be hunting.
Yeah, no, that would be really cool.
It'd be interesting.
And Didi, anything on your end?
I think the first one that came to my mind would probably be Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, one of their, just in general, combined with like GTA or something, or like a Saints Row type thing. I'd say more of a Saints Row type thing.
Okay, you're gonna have to explain this to me because I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. So how do you connect that to Grand Theft Auto?
Card games on motorcycles, bro.
Oh, that one's 5Ds, right?
That one's 5Ds.
Yeah. What was the one I was thinking of? It was the one that introduced Link summoning.
That's Vrains.
That's the one.
Yeah, Vrains. I'd say 5Ds because you know how the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Was kind of like more of the dark, kind of serious type tone.
Yeah.
GX was, for kids TV essentially in both sub and dub.
Yeah.
5D is like, okay, let's try and go back to season 0 of Yu-Gi-Oh! And so I think that kind of mixed with, because card games motorcycles, it sounds really stupid. It kind of is really stupid. But that's why I feel like it kind of fit in a Saints Row type of game. And also, there are gangs and shit in 5Ds. It is weirdly violent at times, which I guess was kind of their intention of trying to evoke Season 0. But yeah, just because it's just like, what game would only I play that no one else would buy that I would find interesting? Mix Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, mix it with Saints Row. Drive around the world, beat the fuck out of people in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh! Addict, and take over their territory or something in their whatever apocalyptic dystopian hellscape city they're in 5Ds. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, and even like turning it back a little bit, like without the card games on motorcycles, you could have like a small map that's just Battle City tournaments.
Yeah, because I mean, in 5Ds, and it's like, hey, you don't even have to like get on your motorcycle and card game them to death. You can just, beat the fuck out of somebody. Why not? They do that in the show. Like they murder people in the show, and they just like blow shit up. It's like, all right, cool, whatever.
Yeah, no, I saw a video a while back about how good fight
the card game.
Wait, what was that?
I was just gonna say, would they have to die if they lost the card game though?
Sure, why not?
I mean,
they did in 5Ds.
Why don't you just do the Seal of Orichalcos and steal their soul?
They do that too. They have the Nazca lines are the bad guys in season 1, and they suck up all the souls of all the innocent people to turn to these giant kaiju monsters and just start busting shit up. Like, I remember one part was just like, oh, that's kind of dark even for 5Ds. Is the bad guys the main bad guys are basically just a bunch of reanimated corpses who are just like really angry and don't want to die, and so come back. And one of Yusei, the main character, his friends, he thinks Yusei turned him into secret police where he was tortured and killed, and so his ghost came back as a vengeful spirit, trying to kill Yusei. It's like, you gave me to the SS, I'm going to kill you now for doing that.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Storylines are fucking crazy, man. I stopped after GX because I was like, I don't know what the hell's happening anymore.
Yeah, it's stupid. I'm mainly just in it for the card game itself, but sometimes it's goofy, it's fun. Like when when he was talking about like Vrains, it's like, hey, it's like, even though it tries to take itself seriously, it's still stupid on how it's still goofy. Like, the main antagonist is like, oh, the internet's bad, everybody. We need to destroy the internet. And everyone was clowning on him until all the AI started revolting and tried to kill everybody. It's like, but at that point, he stopped being ugly. He went to being hot. And he's like, hey, everybody, the internet's trying to kill everybody. Except now he was hot. So now, of course, everyone wanted to agree with him.
That's how it works in the real world too, really.
It really does. That's the sad part. It's the handsome Squidward effect. Yeah. I think with that we'll call it an end of the episode. Thanks so much for joining in and filling in these 3 hot seats that needed to be filled in, guys.
Well, I mean,
Happy to do it.
Just hit me up if you ever need it again.
Yeah,
I can talk all fucking day.
Yeah, with how many times we went on to Final Fantasy tangents, I can believe it.
Just do a deep dive of Final Fantasy.
You would not believe the tangents. I was holding back on how many tangents I wanted to go off on.
Oh, yeah, no, you and me both.
Yeah, I'm gonna call it there. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you want to follow us on social medias, we have on Twitter, Fast Travel Lounge, missing one of the L's, Facebook at Fast Travel Lounge, and if you want to send a question like Steven did, send it to fasttravellounge@gmail.com. And yeah, with that, thanks for watching, and thanks to the guests for joining again. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Later.
Bye.
Later.